Good evening, Wilmington. Welcome to the budget hearing for Wednesday, April 19th. It's glad to have you. Thank you for paying attention and being engaged. We have a busy schedule tonight, as we have during this whole entire budget process. We have the first budget hearing is Human Resources Department, followed by Wilmington Police Department, and then finish off the night with the Fire Department. The times are the 4:45 for HR, 6:15 p.m. for Police Department, and 7:30 p.m. for Fire Department. I'd like to first open the meeting by recognizing members of the Finance Committee here in attendance by doing a roll call. Councilmember Oliver, 3rd District.
Present.
Councilmember Field, 8th District.
Present.
Councilmember Spadola at large.
Present.
Council President Congo.
Here.
I'd like to also recognize other council persons in attendance by doing a roll call. Councilmember Mills at large.
Present.
Councilmember White, 1st District.
Present, Mr. Chair.
Very well. To kick it off, just giving a recap of why we're here.
Councilwoman Darby is present.
Yes, I have you recognized, Councilmember Darby.
Thank you.
Also, we do have Vice Chair Harley, 4th District, present, as well as Councilmember Bracy at large. All right. So just as a recap, we are in the midst of budget season. The budget season kicked off on March 16th when Mayor Pizicki presented his proposed vision for this year's budget. The mayor's proposed budget included a 0% property tax rate increase, 5.7% water sewer rate increase, along with a 6% stormwater rate increase. And the mayor's budget, proposed budget, was balanced with $0 in ARPA funds, $0 in tax stabilization funds, and $0 in fund balance. Also, the budget included lowering some fees as well, including parking tickets from $40 to $25. However, this requires approval from council. The mayor also did make mention of his proposed budget about a new $1 event fee tax, increase in hotel lodge tax from 2% to 3%, and also an increase overall in fines and fees. Now, overall, globally, the general fund budget is $183 million, which is a $6.2 million increase over last fiscal year. The water sewer fund budget was a total of $84 million, which is a $2 million increase. And this is an even year, so the city does go to the capital program market, and the capital program was a total of $125 million. This was the mayor's vision. Now it's council's responsibility and our top duty to review the budget, vet the line items, conduct budget hearings, and really come out with a complete shared vision for moving the city forward. By charter, council must pass a balanced budget 30 days before the end of the fiscal year, which ends on June 30th. Council, as you've seen and since the 108th began, is our focus is doubling down on public safety initiatives, including community-based policing, community engagement, doubling down on neighborhood stabilization efforts, including facade programs, programs for seniors, emergency programs, and also city beautification efforts, and also continuing to enhance the beauty of our city, which are our parks and our homes. The COVID-19 pandemic still has impacted Wilmington greatly, as it has impacted the world. The city did receive a $55 million in federal American Rescue Plan funds. These funds are still being expended and put to great use in the neighborhoods. Visit the City of Wilmington's OpenGov wallet website to see how the allocations are going. You can see where each dollar is spent, each nonprofit that has received assistance, and how we have used our money very wisely. Before I turn over to OMB, I would like to inform everyone that for all of today's hearings. Public comment will be asked at the end of each department's hearings, and we look forward to participation and engagement from the public. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. If there's any follow-up information from any of these hearings tonight that is not covered or not, answered fully, please pay attention to our WMDE budget website, as Ms. Marshall Bastnight from City Council will be tracking questions, getting answers from departments, and putting them on our website. We are limited due to time constraints as we have a lot of information to get through, so budget hearings will be time limited. So again, information that's not hit today in the hearings will surely be posted online. I ask that, as always, the council members, we will hold questions till after the PowerPoint presentation. That way, we have a fresh set of questions to ask the departments. And we'll do 2 rounds of questions, and of course, they must be of a fiscal budgetary nature. Before I turn it over to, I believe it's Mr. Waymeyer, I believe Ms. Human Resources Director Charlotte Barnes will then do a question and answer, and she has a team with her that she will introduce as well. So first, we'll kick it off, Mr. Waymeyer, and then we'll jump to HR department.
Awesome. Thank you, Chairman Johnson. Members of City Council, during this portion of this evening's agenda, we will review the major funding changes within the Department of Human Resources proposed budget for fiscal year 2024. Thank you. Overall, the department's general fund budget has an increase of slightly over $300,000 or 12.8%. Personal services expenses have increased by roughly $12,000 or 0.6%. Materials, supplies, and equipment expenses have increased by just over $291,000 or 68.1%, and the level of staffing remains the same as last year. We can move to the next slide. Thank you. Highlights of the major funding changes in the general fund are the following items. First, the city signed a contract with Paycom to outsource payroll for a total cost of $327,000. Partially offsetting the increased cost from this agreement is a decrease in expenses of $168,000, which is present within the city's IT budget as contracts with Kronos for timekeeping services will not be renewed. Secondly, regarding the human resource budget for workshops, seminars, and training, the net increase for FY2024 is $94,000. And within this, we have 3 items. The first is $40,000 for the TrackStar Employee Performance Management System. Second is $30,000 for the local GovU training platform. And third is $35,000 for consulting with outside vendors to create training materials. Thank you. Next, we will look at the internal service funds for the department, starting with the risk management fund. And overall, the budget has increased around $334,000 or 7.6%. Personal services expenses have increased by $7,000 or 3.5%. Materials, supplies, and equipment expenses have increased by around $327,000 or 7.9%, and staffing remains at last year's level. Thank you. All right, highlighting the major funding changes, again, in risk management, we have 3 items here. First, fire insurance coverage for the city has a net increase of around $113,000 or 37.9%, due to premium increases for several properties. Second, premiums for general liability and cyber insurance have increased by a net of nearly $148,000 or 14%. And the third item in this list, insurance claims have increased by approximately $59,000 or 3.8%. This is from the latest actuary report of general liability, auto, and property claims. All right, talking about the workers' compensation fund, the overall budget has a decrease of nearly $166,000 or 2.9%. Personal services expenses are up around $13,000 or 2.5%. Materials, supplies, and equipment expenses are up about $55,000 or 5.7%. And special purpose self-insurance costs are down nearly $234,000 or 5.6%. Okay, considering the major funding changes in workers' compensation, as a result of the 2023 biannual appeals process, the position of medical dispensary coordinator was upgraded at a cost of around $2,000. Specifically for workers' compensation purposes, the budget for consultants has a $49,000 increase, or 22%, largely due to the need to digitalize medical records so that the city complies with rules of retention. Additionally, small increases for a combined total of $12,000 are present. This is with the contracts for the city physician and workers' compensation insurance coverage with the vendor PMA. And as a partial offset of this increase, the account for Delaware State self-insurance tax is reduced by $37,000 as the state has lowered its rates. Wrapping up the internal service funds in the HR department is the health and welfare fund. So overall, the department has an increase, but overall, this budget has an increase by just over $814,000, or 3.7%. Personal services expenses have risen by approximately $43,000, or 10.4%. Material supplies and equipment expenses have an increase of $2,000, or 0.8%. Special purpose self-insurance costs are up nearly $769,000, or 3.6%, and staffing is the same as last year as well. And this is the last slide. We're summarizing major funding changes in health and welfare. So for dental costs, they have an increase of nearly $201,000, or 17.2%, as costs of claims from current employees are higher than what was budgeted last year. For stop-loss insurance, this has an increase of around $519,000, or 44.4%, and this is due to an extremely high-cost claim, which initiated the city's stop-loss limit. Thirdly, the budget for employer-funded health reimbursement accounts, this has an increase of around $140,000, or 7.4%. And this is due to a 95% utilization for programs among city employees. And previously, this line was budgeted for a rate of utilization around 60%, which is about the industry standard. And lastly, for medical and prescription costs, they have a combined decrease of approximately $84,000, and this is based on the latest review of claims expenses. So in closing, this has been an overview of the FY2024 proposed budget for the Department of Human Resources, regarding which Director Barnes will provide further detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody on council have specific questions for OMB? All right. Seeing none, then I will turn it over to Director Barnes, and if you could introduce your team first. I see many individuals from the department here, and then we can dive into just a brief overview, and then we'll go into the question and answer.
Absolutely. And I have that within the context of my comments, so I'll make sure to introduce that. Good afternoon, President Congo, Chairman Johnson, honorable members of council assembled here this afternoon, and those who may be participating virtually, as well as council staff. Thank you for the opportunity to present the fiscal 24 proposed budget for the Department of Human Resources for your consideration. It is indeed my privilege and honor to serve the city as the Director of Human Resources. I continue to be excited to lead the department as we carry out our mission to provide the necessary human resources to city departments in order to promote the highest quality workforce and productive work environment, to maintain the city's operational and fiscal stability through effective risk management. Before delving into the presentation, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the hardworking professionals on the department's management team. They are Taylor West, Deputy Director, to my right; Wendy Stanford, Director of Employment Services, who is participating virtually; Steve Dexter, Director of Classification and Compensation, who's in the audience; Donnie Bougely Smith, Director of Employee Benefits, who's to my left; Bruno Battaglia, Occupational Health and Safety Program Manager, who's in the audience; James Robb, Risk Manager, who's also in the audience. You should know that in addition to the Deputy Director and myself, every full-time member of the leadership team is a certified human resources professional, either through the Society of Human Resources Professionals or the Human Resources Certification Institute. Further, there are an additional 5 team members who hold a professional certification, bringing the total to 11 individuals within the department, or 44%. I share this information as a certification recognizes the professional experience and skills, validates the knowledge, and enhances the credibility of the individuals who hold them. I owe a debt of gratitude to the entire HR team who works every day to meet the needs of the city's workforce. In addition to the leadership in the audience, we have Maria Perez, we have Tony Sue, we have Norma Ramirez, and we have Janesta Ray. Thank you. With your permission, I'd like to begin responding to council's written questions.
Yes, indeed. So thank you very much for the overview and for your team for being here. It's nice to see everyone from your department, almost everyone. So thank you for joining us. Just to dive into an issue that, isn't highly public, but it's an issue that, I know where the city's taking place in. Can you talk about the biennial appeals process and what the effect is on the budget?
Absolutely. So as prescribed in code, there is a biennial appeal process through which employees can appeal their job classification. This year, we received 47 requests covering 63 individuals. 10 of those requests were approved and 37 were denied. There's a team of individuals that review that information. I will say at this point that any requests received from individuals employed within the Department of Human Resources are reviewed externally by a team that I appoint. We do not review the requests of our team members. The costs associated with the appeals this year, $31,483, is absorbed into the fiscal 23 budget because it took place this year, and that amount will roll forward into the fiscal 24 budget.
Okay. All right. Thank you for covering that. Can you go going to question 2? This is something that's been mentioned during a lot of budget hearings we've had so far. Can you give an update and timeline for the citywide compensation study?
Sure. Peter R. Johnson and Company was engaged at a cost of $85,000 for the class and comp study. And I do want to note that it is for non-uniformed employees. It does not include the sworn police officers nor those members of the Wilmington Fire Department. The study is nearing completion. We were presented a draft report and will be sharing preliminary findings with the mayor's office before the end of the month. We anticipate that this would have a price tag associated with it. However, Human Resources is not aware of any funding earmarked for the recommendations.
Will this be a public report?
I would anticipate, I can't answer that question specifically. I know it's in draft form right now, so it's not as a draft
Yes.
available for the public, but
At some point, it will become public, yes.
Thank you very much for that update. We could go to the city's collective bargaining agreements, or CBAs. That's also been mentioned, and probably the police and fire will discuss it as well. What's the status and what's the timeline for new contracts?
okay. So I stand before you very proud that most of our bargaining units are under contract. The only one that is not under contract is Local 1102, and we are in active negotiations. Local 1590, the fire department, we have reached a tentative agreement with them, and they are working through the process for scheduling a ratification vote. We have 6 collective bargaining units covering about 75% of the city's workforce. We have 2 police unions, one for captains and inspectors and one for the rank and file. The captains and inspectors contract, we're in active negotiations. That contract expires June 30th of 2023. The rank and file contract expires June 30th of 2024. As I indicated, Local 1102's contract, we're in active negotiations. It is expired. Local 1102B, which is the part-time crossing guard union, their contract expires in 2023. I also just mentioned that we reached a tentative agreement with the fire department. So glad that we were able to do that and not have to proceed through a long protracted process. And then the other, AFSCME Local 320, they're under contract through 2026. We are in active negotiations because there was a provision in their contract for wage reopeners, but we're doing that now.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. We talk about, again, a topic that it's come up multiple times in hearing, about the vacancies in the city. Can you discuss, you can give a broad strokes of what the plan is to attract folks to work for our great city? And I note that there's, currently 97 vacancies for non-appointed staff.
So Chairman Johnson, the vacancy report is a very fluid number. It stands at 90 now, not 97.
Great.
But Deputy Director West will be handling this question.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. So the question provided by council itself speaks to the challenges that many companies and municipalities are experiencing in filling vacancies. And so for our budget seeks to address this in a few ways. One, by providing an employee referral bonus, so that all current employees who make a referral, obviously some limitations, may be eligible to receive a bonus for that referral when the employee completes their probationary period.
Councilman, can you have Ms. West speak into the microphone?
Yes, Ms. West, you can move that over.
So one of the ways our budget seeks to address the number of vacancies that we have are through an employee referral bonus. And one thing that we know is that some of the best sources for candidates who are likely to connect with our culture and our mission are often referred by internal candidates. And so also, new hires who come into the organization through employee referrals tend to be more successful within the organization. And so we desire to incentivize that and address our vacancies in that way. As we've stated previously, we are in the middle of conducting a classification and compensation study to see how our salaries compare throughout the market, and that will hopefully, one of the goals is to be able to attract and retain talent by having competitive salaries. We are also updating our recruitment materials to promote a total compensation package. Our salaries are what they are, but one of the ways the city stands out is through our benefits. And so if we can promote that in a way that reflects a total compensation that will and has already proven to be effective in recruiting. Additionally, and we're going to talk about this a little later, we're going to be implementing a learning and development system, which is designed to upskill and retain existing employees. And then also implementing a new performance management system. And so we endeavor to create a culture of performance, which includes clearly defining goals and providing regular feedback to employees with the intent to increase employee morale and retention. So those are a few things that are provided specifically in our budget, but we're also taking a few additional actions to address our vacancies, including increasing community partnerships. And so thus far, we have established relationships with the Department of Labor, with the state of Delaware, as well as the Hope Commission. And we are exploring partnerships with Job Corps, Deltech in their Office of Work-Based Learning, and also Polytech Adult Education with their trade and apprenticeship programs. In addition to that, we have and will continue to increase our participation in local job fairs. This past year, thus far, we have participated in 7 job fairs. In addition, we are regularly evaluating job descriptions with the intent to eliminate unnecessary educational requirements. And so obviously, as we may modify those requirements, that will increase possibly the amount of people that will be eligible to be in those roles. We have also expanded our advertisement of city jobs. And so right now our jobs are advertised on the city website, the City of Wilmington social media pages, LinkedIn, Indeed, career offices at local colleges and universities, professional and trade organizations and associations, as well as we have a community distribution list that sends out all posted and vacant positions.
Thank you very much for covering that. Now going to the internal facing questions, just about your department and how it's functioning. If we could discuss the vacancies in your department.
So right now, the Department of Human Resources has 1 vacant position, and that is the compliance specialist position. it became vacant on December 7th of 2022. And we intend to hopefully fill this position in the July timeframe, July of 2023. To date, there have been no impacts regarding overtime or temp agencies. However, we are considering outsourcing our pending and workplace misconduct investigations just to move the process along, just because of the volume, and also the human resources to be able to investigate those complaints.
I believe she said they're going to be hiring an outside consulting firm for investigating
Yeah, we're
workplace
considering
complaints.
hiring outside. As far as the need for the position, this role has some very critical functions for the city of Wilmington, including workplace investigations as well as facilitating our compliance training. So that would be our state mandated harassment training as well as our annual ethics training. We recently hired an employee who will take some of these responsibilities, and that will allow us to retitle and hopefully repurpose the position to better reflect the duties that remain.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any changes to any job titles?
So right now in the current proposed budget, we have one title change, and that is the labor relations specialist. We are hoping to change that to the labor and employee relations specialist. Although a minor change, the purpose of that is to accurately reflect the fact that this position will handle not only union-related employee matters, but also employee relation matters for non-union employees. And so we just added that employee relations to the current title.
Can you discuss moving to the next question, can you discuss the miscellaneous service account line? We've noticed there's about $250,000 increase. I believe a lot of it may be due to the new Paycom service. So can you explain what the effect that has had on the budget?
So I'll handle that question, Mr. Chairman. There was an increase in the miscellaneous services line in that particular division of the budget. $25,000 is for the compliance division, and that is for externally handled workplace investigations. And then the remaining amount is the amount that's budgeted for the outsourcing of payroll. As was indicated by the Office of Management and Budget, this increase was offset by a commensurate decrease in IT's budget because some of the clocks and things of that nature associated with timekeeping are no longer necessary, and it will not be in the IT's budget, so it's reflected here. Excuse me. So that's how those funds will be utilized.
Okay, and is it, so why and I think a subpart was why the fire department also will be still on Kronos,
Okay.
whereas the rest of the city won't be on Kronos.
Certainly. And so that was question, I think, 7C. So if you want, I'll handle
Yes.
7A, B, and C. Okay. So as indicated last year, it was anticipated that ADP would be fully implemented in Q1 of fiscal 23. However, after review, a decision was made to move to Paycom for a variety of different reasons. They offer greater efficiency by combining both time and attendance and payroll into one platform for not only our active employees but retired staff as well. And they also offered enhanced employee self-service tools where employees could go and handle any changes they needed to make within the platform. They could print old copies of W-2s from this platform and a variety of other self-service tools that they can't do right now. Also, Paycom offered superior on-site training, not only during implementation, but beyond. So we decided to go with Paycom. We continue to work through some data migration issues that are underway right now, and those data migration issues are between Munis and Paycom, but we anticipate that this and other stakeholder issues should be resolved by the summer since that was asked about the timeline for implementation. Regarding WFD, WFD uses Telestaff. Telestaff is their scheduling software that is connected to Kronos, and that's $30,000 a year. However, Paycom has a similar software that they are working through and developing, and so once that has happened, we will work with WFD to make sure that that platform meets its needs, and then we would anticipate transitioning if it meets their needs.
Okay. And going to the question about investigations, and can you define high-level investigation before you go into the answer?
Sure. And so by high level, I'm assuming that means those investigations that we outsource to outside counsel. And so typically, we make that decision based on sometimes the nature of the complaint or the complexity of the investigation, and also resources available internally to handle either that complaint or the totality of the complaints we are currently investigating. And so in fiscal year 22, we had 0 investigations that were outsourced to outside counsel. And thus far in fiscal year 23, we have 3.
Can you discuss the account line for workshops and seminars? We noticed this is a pretty, sizable increase over last year's budget. Can you explain why? Is this more trainings, or why is there a higher cost?
Actually, the money was reprogrammed and repositioned from other divisions, so that's why you're seeing it in that line here. However, we have the $40,000 that we talked about, our performance management system, and so there's $40,000 budgeted for that. The $20,000 for citywide training is the same amount that was budgeted previously, and then the professional development for human resources employees within the department. As I indicated at the outset in my opening statement, we have certified professionals within the department that requires ongoing continuing education credits to maintain those certifications. And so as an HR director, any human resources professional that does not invest in professional development probably shouldn't be a human resources professional. So that is what's listed in the employment services. In the compliance line, local GovU is where a lot of our training rests over top of the local GovU platform, and we can push those trainings out to various departments, excuse me, as needed. There's also money budgeted for the biennial state mandated harassment training as a result of the Me Too movement. And then we endeavor to develop learning content, as you heard earlier, one of the ways in which we are trying to address vacancies and attract and retain talent. We not only want to do that, but we want to develop some content to upskill our existing employees so we won't have to replace them, so that they won't leave and we won't have these vacancies. So that's $85,000, and that's the total of $167,000 that is budgeted for workshops, seminars, and training.
Okay. Very well. And can you discuss if there's any highlights with the local GovU? I know that's a fairly new program, right?
It's been around for a couple of years now. You used to see in our budget City University.
Okay.
Local GovU is our local training and development platform now. Okay, and so I think that's Sarah's question.
So this fiscal year, we have had a total of 950 training courses that have been completed to date. And they are on the screen reflected, divided by the departments. And so we have, as far as the number of employees trained, 1 employee in the Office of Emergency Management, 12 employees in finance, 4 employees in the Department of Human Resources, 2 in the Department of Land Use and Planning, 1 in the Law Department, 1 in the Department of Parks and Recreation, 298 in the Police Department, and 45 in Public Works. So again, that's the number of employees trained, but the total number of courses that have been taken to date is 950.
Okay. All right. And Can you also discuss, why, or at least the benefits of the TrackStar system, and what you're getting out of it? Are you getting your bang for your buck?
Sure. So TrackStar will be implemented, and there are many, many benefits to having a performance management system. One is increased employee morale, engagement, and retention. And so again, vacancies is a hot topic and a challenge that we are trying to work through, and that is one way by increasing morale and engagement that we can hopefully eliminate future vacancies. A performance management system also encourages employees and managers to hold regular and structured performance conversations during which they clearly define their goals and provide transparent feedback. It also will help to identify training needs. And so by having those regular conversations, by documenting progress and performance, we will be able to identify skill gaps. And that will also then translate to how we can respond through our learning and development program. And then it will serve as a resource for for managers, again, to track and maintain the performance of their staff, really having a organized platform to be able to stay on top of all those things involved in people management. And so there will be an annual cost for TrackStar, and that is $40,000. A couple points that I didn't mention that are just general benefits of performance management is it also helps us to document and justify personnel decisions. So that could be from promotions to discipline. And so that facilitates consistency within the organization, which then can also reduce legal risks. And then it will allow us through the reporting functions to leverage unbiased people analytics to uncover or identify needs within the workforce and those of our employees and the organization as a whole.
Okay, and can you specify just in broad strokes what the training protocol looks like for city managers?
Sure. So we will have training for both managers and staff, and this will be for both union and non-union employees. And so the training can include, but is not limited to, training on our new technology, soft skills, people management training, compliance training, etc. As far as the funding associated with this, we will be working with an external vendor to assist in either the development or leasing of learning content. And there are numerous benefits to having a learning and development program. Some of which include, as we mentioned, it helps us to address skills gaps that are identified through performance management. It builds a pipeline of leaders, and by developing employees for promotional opportunity, it can improve productivity and performance, which then improves our service delivery and customer service within the organization, and also can help reduce risk and compliance, reduce risk through compliance and ethics training. Additionally, I'd like to add that, right now, I think prioritizing learning and development is more important than ever. We know that younger generations entering the workforce demand opportunities for learning and professional development. And so, we talked about the number of vacancies. Again, this is certainly a way to address turnover and help retain our workforce.
Thank you very much. Now turning to the next question, are there any highlights with the food and trophy and award account line, or is it the same as prior years?
It's pretty much the same as prior years, and so we have $6,000 allocated to the administrative division, and that's for Take Your Children to Work Day, and Administrative Professionals Day that we celebrate for all administrative staff throughout the city, as well as our annual department team building event. And then for employment services, that is for our employee recognition and years of service program that we have annually.
All right, very well. Then thank you very much, Deputy Director. And I believe now we're turned to the part of the hearing about internal services. I do see Mr. James Robb in the audience, or I don't know who's Who's going to handle risk
We
management?
were, I'm gonna handle everything, and if there's Q&A that we need to get to in the Q&A, if necessary, we'll bring the appropriate staff up.
Okay. All right. Excellent. All right. So if we can dive into it, and Dr. Barnes, he discussed the risk management fund. I believe it's $4.2 million. This is about a little over $300,000 dollar increase over last year. Oh, and I'd like to first recognize Councilmember Fields and Councilmember Spadola are in chambers. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So there is $4.2 million in the account grouping, and you'll see on the chart how that's allocated. There were some increases in some of the lines, but very specifically, it covers the fire coverage on our property, vessels, and large vehicles. It's the liability line, which is a significant portion of the $4.2 million. That's our excess liability coverage for catastrophic events. Then you have your insurance claims, your general liability, auto and property claims. There's just under $800,000 for constitutional public liability fees for legal defense. And then there's a budget for motor vehicle. Very specifically, there's money for safety training and risk control and things of that nature. And then there's the nearly $30,000 that is the claimant for the former risk manager.
Okay. Thank you very much for covering that. If we could turn to talk about a little bit about the excess policy. This is more for the public, especially, and members of council who are not aware of what the excess policy is. Can you explain it?
Sure. So certainly the city is self-insured. However, if we were to be fully self-insured, when we had a catastrophic event, we would need to have sufficient reserves to meet the needs associated with that catastrophic event. So it is prudent, and we believe an appropriate balance to have an excess liability coverage policy. That policy pays everything in excess of $750,000 for a particular claim. So we would be responsible for the first $750,000, and then the policy would kick in for everything over the $750,000.
Okay. All right. If we could go talking about hop to talking about the legal defense fund. What are the types of cases? And can you talk about any other details that you can? Obviously, I know certain details are confidential, but can you at least share with council details you can share?
Certainly. So what I can share is that we had 42 claims in the fiscal year 22, and we have 31 year to date this year. You'll see how they are broken down. Some of them are constitutional claims, some of them employment, some of them personal injury for your total there. This number is provided by the law department. While it rests in the risk management budget, it is provided by the law department because they are very integral and very involved with managing the cases as well as managing the fees associated with the cases. So any specifics around the cases would have to come from the law department, who I believe your hearing is with them next week. Next week, if I'm not mistaken. But the very specifics around, I can give you the high level, the claims, the categories of the claims, but they would be most appropriate.
And your department does circulate I believe a legal update, I guess, every other month, or at least law department does.
It's the law department that does that.
Okay.
Absolutely. And then there was a question about the salary for the claimant. That settlement is for the lifetime of the claimant.
Okay. All right. You discuss any other reserves, or at least a reserve fund? Any highlights there? This is the next.
So I wanted to clarify that while there are actuarially determined liabilities, there are not any actually determined reserve amounts for the risk management fund. Our budget, what we budget for the fund, is determined by the actuary. However, there is not a reserve other than what's listed in the annual financial report.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now, if we could turn to the Workers' Compensation Fund. Is this your portion, Director Barnes?
Still me.
Okay.
Still
All right.
me.
Can we discuss the planned use of the approximately $500,000 for the Workers' Compensation Fund?
Absolutely. So the lion's share of that, much like I just talked about excess liability coverage for catastrophic loss in our general liability lines, we have the same scenario here in the workers' comp fund. We after the catastrophic event in 2016, which included the loss of 3 firefighters, we thought it was prudent. We did a good bit of research and sat down with our broker, and we walked away with the recommendation to purchase excess liability coverage to cover catastrophic loss for workers' compensation claims. That's the lion's share of what's budgeted in that $517,000. There's $100,000 budgeted for unemployment claims. We are self-insured for unemployment as well. Okay.
Can you discuss the approximately $440,000 for fees and consultants?
Absolutely. So we have several consultants that we do work with. There's our third-party administrator for workers' compensation claims. You'll see there PMA. We have to do fitness for duty exams for our police and fire departments annually, for our police officers and firefighters annually. We do pre-employment medical screenings, and so we have a vendor that supports us in that work. We work with a temporary agency, Integrity, for the entire city that assists us with temporary staff for peak time periods. We're looking to digitize our medical records. If you were to visit the medical dispensary, you will see a significant amount of file cabinets taking up a significant amount of space. We're looking to modernize the storage of those records. And so that will be a phased approach over a couple of different years. But the $37,000 is, what we anticipate being in the budget for a couple of years to come. None of the individuals or none of the vendors that that I just mentioned are DBEs. However, our city medical provider, Dr. Jackie Jo Lindo, we have a 5-year contract with her. We're in the 2nd year of that, and she is a DBA.
And I believe now we've turned to the health and wellness portion and health benefits portion. I imagine that is Ms. Smith.
That is Ms. Smith. But
All right,
before we turn it over to Ms. Smith, I do want to take the opportunity. You'll see on the slide that it says that the budget increased $768,000. And you heard OMB talk about roughly a almost 4% increase. The work that has been done to manage the escalation of healthcare costs cannot be understated. It is significant that the city has not had to seek revenues to cover these expenses because they have been flat for a good period of time. And so while it went up $768,000, that's half the national average. That's half what you're seeing nationally. So the city is doing an awesome job of trying to control our healthcare costs, much of it through our wellness programs, which you'll hear a lot from Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith?
Floor is yours, Ms. Smith.
Thank you. So just reviewing the lines with medical and pharmacy, you'll notice that it is relatively flat to this current year. That's really a reflection of medical. We're rebounding very nicely from COVID, so it's really showing a lot of stabilization in the line. It's also showing that employees are really taking a lot of initiative for preventative care. As mentioned, stop loss does have a sharp increase. That's due to upcoming gene therapies that are going to be approved by the FDA. They carry a very hefty price tag, and stop loss carriers have had to increase premiums significantly to accommodate that. The good news there is that we're able to maintain our $250,000 attachment point, which means that from a risk management perspective, we are really well cared for there in terms of being able to absorb that increase in the stop loss, and again, we're being able to remain relatively flat in medical. Prescription, we have been able to knock out almost $1 million in the last 3 years out of this number. And again, that's really due to a lot of strong performance with our rebates and discount programs. Our medical admin fee is, as a rate hold, we were able to lower that last year. And we've installed a Clarity program, which basically gives our employees white glove service in terms of their care and considerations. Dental, that is another part of the increase. You see $200,000 there. And that's a result of having more intelligence in the claims and realizing that the retirees are trending less, and then wanting to absorb that increase from the active side. And that's just a reflection of this year. It could change next year depending on claim trend. We also have a dental admin. Whenever you're self-insured, you have a dental, you have an administration fee. That's a rate hold for the last 4 years. And then we have our Flex HRA program, that stands for Health Reimbursement Account. And we do a lot of education on how to use your health reimbursement account. But in addition to that, every single person who enters the city is offered that due to PPO2 and our EPO plans. And so the industry average is 65%. We actually are utilizing that at 90 to 95%, so we're budgeting appropriately for that next year. And then our vision, again, this is the first time we are seeing some type of increase. We are expecting just a minor increase for the first time since installing the program. And then as well, we noticed that there's a trend for a lot of our employees during open enrollment to take the buy-up plan. And then lastly, we have a decrease in telehealth that combines 2 programs that we use through Teledoc. That's our general medicine, as well as our teletherapy. And it's just, we are planning that down just because we have low claims on the teletherapy side, but we maintain the PEPM for telemedicine. And as Charlotte mentioned, that is a reflection of a 3.5% increase, which is about half the national average.
And if you could discuss any proactive measurements that the city is taking for to curb the healthcare costs?
Yeah, we've had a really exciting year since the last time we were in chambers together. We won last year an award for our innovation in diabetes prevention. We offer it on site. We're one of the only employers that dedicate work time. We are the only employer that dedicates work time to that program. And so we were really pleased, and I'm really pleased to share that the City of Wilmington was awarded this innovation award. We also have developed new opportunities for employees and retirees. So we have an expansion of our Healthy Action stations. We've expanded our lunch around town, partners in prevention, and a fun event that we like to call our Retiree Power Hour. We are on session 3 of offering the diabetes prevention on site. That program's doing extremely well. And then we've also established strategic partnerships with iHeartMedia and other wellness providers in the city. This gives us an opportunity to get sponsorships for our wellness events, as well as provide discounts across the city for our employees, retirees, and their families. We have another new partnership that's worth mentioning, and that's with the YMCA. They have a new program. It's a lifestyle management program called Lean. And we are partnering with them in their first year of offering that in the state of Delaware in order to help it provide the evidence to make it a covered benefit through medical. So we're excited to hear how that's going right now. It's had a really great reaction with our employees, and it's doing very well. And then we installed new benefit websites for our employees and retirees. We really believe in a benefits on the go approach to healthcare and wellness and benefits. And so this allows you to always have your benefits information at your fingertips. You're able to not only gather the information for all your various plans and costs, but also to actually enroll as a new hire, as well as during open enrollment. You can do everything from your phone if you choose to. We're extremely proud of our new employee incentive program. It's called We Go Hard for Health. It's powered by the Invite app. It's an optional incentive opportunity for employees to earn, non-cash value dollars for taking healthy actions throughout the year. And we're excited we just launched that in March, and we're excited to push that forward. And then very importantly, we're actually adding a vaccination program to our pharmacy program, as well as care value packages around weight management, pulmonary, and diabetes. The exciting thing about the vaccination program is that right now it's only been offered through medical. We'll continue to do that. However, by adding it to pharmacy, it just allows employees to have greater access to getting vaccinations for COVID, flu, travel, and other needed vaccinations. And then we're probably really known for our Fall Fest event. So we have our Fall Fest event, which happens in October, and March Madness that happens all month. And what was really important to us, next slide, please. What was really important to us was try to find a way to start to collect data on the work that we were doing with employees. And so through our raffle tickets, as well as now the digital app, you're able to see that in one day, in 4 hours, we took 1,571 healthy actions, and that really includes really important things like 198 blood pressures in 4 hours, COVID vaccinations, flu shots, and such. And then in March Madness, where we launched the digital program, this is actually healthy actions that were tracked digitally. So you can see that our webinars were well attended, and we were able to, again, in 2 hours, do 84 blood pressures and 214 movement and mobility actions, just as an example there.
Okay, we just had a question about the hard data amount, the amount of active plans. Do you have that to share?
Yep.
Is there any highlights or?
Yep.
What are
Our
numbers?
next slide just kind of just gives a pictorial picture of our year in wellness. But in the next slide, you'll see that we have 969 employees covered on 3 plans. And those numbers are shared there. And then our under 65 retirees are eligible for the same 3 plans. And we have 130 people enrolled currently. And then our over 65 retirees are actually offered a group supplement. Medicare really becomes their primary. We offer a group supplement, and our 265 of our retirees enjoy that Aetna Advantage plan. We have another plan that we have through Highmark. It's been closed for enrollment for quite a while and has very low enrollment left of 7 people.
Okay, thank you. If you could share details about your consultant line under the Health and Wellness Fund.
Sure. For the $193,705 that we have budget for FY2024, it's for our benefits websites that I mentioned, as well as our healthcare broker. We have a 4-year contract there. We're going into year 2 of that. We always have our physician engagement. This is an opportunity to have a physical, get a 2% discount on your insurance premium. We've had that program for the last 5 years, and then we have our FlexFax Cobra vendor, which is a $32,000 fee, and we've had that vendor for the last 11 years. None of them are DBEs, but I did want to share that when you look at our events like Fall Fest and March Madness, it's really working and celebrating a lot of the local businesses, minority businesses, women-owned businesses throughout the state in terms of food and wellness and, fitness opportunities.
Okay. All right. Could you share with us the organizational chart and highlights and, I guess, soon-to-be pictures on the website, Chief of Staff Washington? Is there any highlights you would like to share for us?
No highlights, just that you see the divisions listed there and the leadership of each of the respective divisions. We just have the 1 vacancy that you heard about previously, the compliance specialist. Very proud to be here just with 1 vacancy because for quite some time we've had several vacancies within the department. However, we have really worked hard to attract and retain a high quality staff that we hope will be with us for quite some time because they are the ones that's powering the work that we do.
Okay. All right, very well. So now it's time for questions from members of council. Actually, I have just 1 or 2 questions. Director Barnes or whoever from your team can answer this. Specifically about the disparity study in the Legal Defense Fund. Has your department looked at how the disparity study will integrate with the Legal Defense Fund? Because when I'm looking at the budget, I don't see the listing of law firms that are providing services. And I mean, I have knowledge that none of them are DBEs, or at least that I'm aware of. So what strides are you making to make sure the legal defense providers are DBEs, or moving towards some kind of focus on DEI specializing firms, or firms that have a DEI focus?
Certainly, great question. As I mentioned earlier, while the fees for legal defense reside in our budget, the selection of, pursuant to city code, the selection of outside counsel, that responsibility rests with the city solicitor. So that question would probably be more appropriately handled with the law department.
And actually, there is a question in the law department's budget hearing addressing just that.
And the next question, just about the overall trying to recruit workers. I noticed a lot of the benefits we have, which are great. But what are we looking at modernizing remote work, or promoting remote or hybrid work? I didn't notice that in the presentation.
So during the pandemic, the city adopted a telework policy. And that policy affords the opportunity for employees to work a hybrid schedule or remote work at the sole discretion of the department head. If requests for telework are funneled through the department head, the employee has to have a satisfactory performance evaluation, and they must be able to demonstrate what can be done at home, and the productivity that can be accomplished while they're at home. You have to have quantifiable work product that can be accomplished to verify that work is actually being done. So there are telework opportunities within the city of Wilmington, and several employees do work a hybrid work schedule.
Okay, is that something we're looking for, maybe in advertising, like the state does? You know, you look at their billboards, it says hybrid work, or, you know, it has that on there. Is that something we're talking about, or that's a further conversation?
Well, what we could potentially do is, as we are working with the hiring manager for a specific position, because that is a question that employees ask in an interview, what % of this work could be handled, you know, remotely or whatever. We can work with a department head, the hiring manager, when we're posting the position, to determine how, or for them to say how much of that work could be handled remotely. But we absolutely do have a telework policy and remote work.
Great, excellent. All right, council members in chambers, we'll start with questions first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember White.
Where do I begin? I noticed in your budget presentation, I'll get the right slide if I may, that you have 364 employees trained, correct? If I read the right.
364 employees that utilized the local GovU training, not that that's the only employees that have been trained.
Right. And do we know how many hours that involved?
Most of the trainings are an hour long, so that would be 364 at the hour.
Do we know if any of the training involved an exam at the end of it, or a quiz?
Yes, some of them do, and we can get you the ones that do involve exams at the end.
Okay. So what is the goal of the training? When people take this, what is the ultimate goal of the department as it relates to offering this training?
It depends upon what the purpose of the training is. So some individuals are referred to training as a refresher for something as remedial, for something that they need to go back and brush up on. Some of it is supervisory, some of it is leadership, some of it's emotional intelligence. So the goal is to make them aware, introduce new concepts or remediate some behaviors.
So I know, at least on the discussions, you're very up on quantitative analysis of a lot of things that you do. So my question is, how many of the employees, how are you measuring an employee's participation in any training in terms of the end product?
So you mean their active participation?
No, and I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Oh,
Someone goes to training for whatever reason, and I'm only supposing they go on to training because it was offered or because they wanted to. So what does it look like after? How do you measure what they got or didn't receive out of that training?
So I would say for training that is assigned for remedial purposes. So for example, if there's a disciplinary issue, I think the qualitative metric would be change behavior. As far as training that is intended to build soft skills, that would be measured and reflected in performance evaluations and regular measurement of, outside of the annual performance evaluation, regular measurement of an employee's performance.
Okay, thank you. But then I look at if I may, Mr. Chair, I'd just
Yes,
like to
please.
get this out of my head. Then I look at your track star system and the benefits thereof. You've already mentioned them. We've already seen them on scale. So my question now is, what comes first? You have a training program, and now you have a track star program. Tell me how they are integrated, and what do you think is the cost per savings, or is there any cost per savings of doing this dual training modality?
So there are two different systems, and I'll start and then Taylor can jump in as needed. The Track Star is a performance management system.
Okay.
Performance evaluation, touch points with the employees. So that is going to be how employees are evaluated on their performance. The local GovU is training that may be necessary or for whatever reason. So local GovU also does our ethics training that lays over
Let
top
me
of
just
that.
ask, because we have more of a conversation. If someone was found deficient in the track star, would they be referred to training?
Potentially, yes, absolutely.
And if they were in training, would that enhance their performance under the track star performance management?
That's the goal.
So it just appears we're investing a lot of money, but not money to me, in repeating a step. Either it's performance enhancement, which I see, and again, I'm not a human relations expert, in the training that you're offering in the GovU, or the track star, it just seems to be a repeating of some of these steps. And maybe I'm not seeing it right.
So Track Star isn't training. Track Star is performance management. So think of a performance evaluation that employees go through every year.
Okay.
So Track Star provides us a software package that will guide that process. It offers quarterly touch points. It will offer quarterly touch points, require touch points with the supervisor and the subordinate. It also allows them to establish goals at the outset, and then you're measuring and tracking that throughout the year. So at the end of their performance evaluation, or even during the year if there are performance deficiencies, the supervisor, manager can then say, okay, you're deficient in this area. On our local GovU platform, let's have you go to take some additional customer service training. So during your performance, we've noticed that you are not providing quality customer service. Now local GovU has some customer service training. We're going to do your training on local GovU.
Okay, my last question, I don't mean to,
Yes, please.
thank you, Mr. Chair. What type of reduction do we get in our risk management costs for any training that's offered to the employees? And I can take the question offline, but if you have a number, or if there's something.
I'm not able, I don't know that there's a quantitative number that I can give you that say we have a reduction in risk. It would manifest itself in reduced claims.
Which would manifest in a reduced risk management budget.
Absolutely.
Okay, Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions in chambers for HR? Council member, Vice Chair Harley first, and then I.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, I want to commend these ladies on a par excellent job on their presentation. They did a very good job.
Thank you.
I have like 3 questions, Mr.
Yes,
Chair.
yes, please. Floor is yours.
So on question number 4, which I consider a slam dunk for all of the great things that you talked about on slide 4, the employment referral bonus. I think that's great because, we know about the vacancies, council has been, hearing about that and in meetings about that connected to the residency. And you mentioned that you have a bonus for employment referral. Have you considered a sign-on bonus for those that, have you considered a sign-on bonus?
I'll take that. So because our workforce is unionized, a significant portion of our workforce is unionized, any bonuses that are provided has to be negotiated.
Understood.
Okay, so we would not just to be able to establish and say, we're going to offer a signing bonus for a specific category of employees without first having had negotiations with the unions on the applicability of that.
Understood, because that second bullet where you talked about classification and compensation study, when that benchmarking is completed or that study is completed, it could come back, with a recommendation of signing on bonuses in terms of what other companies are doing to attract, better skilled, applicants. They offer those sign-on bonuses, so that could be something that you can consider getting ahead of. It's just something to think about, because we know that this has been an ongoing conversation about vacancies, et cetera. And I really do think that sign-on bonuses could definitely be a great incentive. You also talked about the benefits package. I agree 100%. Working for a Fortune 500 company, I can clearly tell you that the city of Wilmington's benefits package is totally awesome. So, that bullet there, I think is definitely worth promoting. That's one of the things that you said, y'all shared, that you would consider in terms of trying to recruit more higher skilled or just good quality applicants. Yes, definitely promote your benefits our benefits package, because it is really a great one. And then you also talked about the retention, upskilling, and retaining existing employees. That to me ties in too with the vacancies, because if you have an environment that is not conducive to respectful employees, respecting employees in the environment, then that can be part of the problem, not so much filling vacancies, but if people come to work and they're not feeling good about their jobs, that can play into that, the people leaving. The revolving doors. They come in and then they leave. They come in and they leave. And so I wanted to just, make a comment on that in terms of that's a great ideal that your organization is spending some time in looking at retention. I'm going to move on to my question on number 5.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned under 5C, your organization is considering outsourcing the pending workplace misconduct complaints. Under misconduct, would it be appropriate to mention or share what defining misconduct, or is it just an array of misconduct type of activities?
It could be an array. So generally, misconduct is any violation of any of our human resources policies. As far as the ones that we might outsource, they might be, more serious conduct, such as like a violation of our anti-harassment policy. But generally, misconduct, it can be, kind of general employee grievances or, violations of any of one of our policies.
Okay, all right, and I noticed that you used the word considering. So how are you going to determine if you decide to do that?
So we have an internal metric within our department that from the date of the complaint, we seek to have a prompt, thorough investigation within 90 days. And because of this vacancy and because of the complexity of some of the investigations, we will consider outsourcing the more complex ones so that we can meet that metric that we have established for ourselves.
Okay, so it could be certain complaints, not all of them.
Correct.
Okay.
It would be certain complaints, not all of them.
Okay, and then lastly, on page or question number 8A, where you talk about a total of 950 training courses have been completed. And you said year to date, so that's from January to this month. When you say year to date, is that your year to date from January to April?
Year to date for the fiscal year, which would be from July 1 of 2022 to the present day of 2023.
Oh, okay, because I was thinking like that's a pretty impressive number, 950 between January and April. But lastly, is this courses or people that have completed the courses? Because it says
So
a total of
950.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
950 is the courses. The total number of people that have completed the courses is 364.
Right. I heard you say that, and after I circled this question, so I was like, okay, I just wanted to get clarity. I think that's pretty impressive to have 950 training courses, and it sounds like it's across the board for all different
Point of order, Mr. Chair. Just want to.
positions.
I give a little leeway.
Okay. I just wanted
The conversation.
to, and ask my questions like everyone else. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you for the comments, and thank you very much, Director, for covering the comprehensive overview. In chamber,
Mr. Chair, I have one question.
Councilmember Fields,
Thanks.
in chamber.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, HR. Let me pull my mic over. So this does go to question number 8A. So there is a total of 950. We had 364. I guess my question is if they don't if these departments don't utilize all of these courses, do we recoup anything from those courses not being taken, or is it just a one flat fee altogether, regardless if they take it or not?
It's a flat fee for a library of courses that we have access to. So it doesn't matter whether the courses are taken or not, the price would remain the same.
Okay. Yeah, and well, what was that? No, I don't have a follow up. I'm done. I'll call you and ask you that one.
All right, very well, Councilmember. Any other questions in chambers first? All right, we're going to kick it now to those on Zoom. I believe you have Councilmember Field. Floor is yours, sir.
Yes, hi. Regarding the issue of finding new employees, so it is definitely a very competitive world out there. Every government, every company is having this issue. My question is, to what extent is HR evaluating the degree, the extent to which a college degree or an advanced degree is in fact required? So, I mean, many jobs that require a bachelor's degree today or a master's degree today didn't 30, 40, 50 years ago. And the same exact jobs. The state of Maryland just went through and reclassified, and I think 3,000 jobs that were requiring a bachelor's degree or a master's degree were bumped down to high school or just a bachelor's degree.
Point of order.
I guess what is the question, Councilmember Field?
Well, okay, I'm asking it. So, like, to what extent is HR evaluating the extent to which a college degree or an advanced degree is required in the context of the issue of the vacancies, which many other people have asked questions about in this hearing?
It, I guess that is programmatic, really, but I will give some leeway if you are prepared, Director. Though that's a very
No,
that's
Point
a
of
very
order, Mr.
specific
Chair.
question. I'm trying to.
I, kn-
I guess the question is for Director. Do you have an answer? Or is that more of a loaded?
point of order. It's not a budget question.
I understand. Just again, I gave leeway to
Chair.
the council members
Yes.
to generally, Director. Do you have an idea?
Yes, we give consideration every time we post a position. There are very few of our positions that require a degree. The vast majority of our postings indicate that any equivalent combination of required knowledge, skills, and abilities. Of the 311 discrete positions that we have, only 24% of them actually require a degree. Specifically, of the 1,044 employees, only 95 employees would be required to have a degree.
Okay.
We focus on certifications, we focus on experience, and required knowledge, skills, abilities, de-emphasizing education.
Okay. Thank you very. And any conversation, I believe we can have offline about what the future holds.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. And Councilmember Darby. We don't hear your audio.
I'm fine. I don't need to ask my question.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. Excellent. All right. Now I will turn it to the public. If there's any comments from anyone in chambers? Seeing none. Just checking Zoom. All right. Very well. And now turning to council for any final comments from council members. All right. Seeing none. Again, thank you very much, Director Barnes and your team. I believe we had a very comprehensive outlook about, some very important issues, which is the health of our workers and how our workers are doing and maintaining our workers. So then thank you very much. And of course, thank you to the OMB team, Mr. Waymeyer, and any follow-up information. As always, please make sure to provide it to Chief Financial Officer, Ms. Marshall Bassnight. And at this time, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Second. So moved.
And properly moved and seconded.
Second.
The budget hearing for HR department has concluded. We are running a little bit behind schedule, so we will be 10-minute break before police department. So I guess let's just say 6:30.
6:20.
6:20. 6:20. Running a little ahead. 6:20. Good evening, Wilmington. Welcome to the budget hearing for the Wilmington Police Department. I'd like to thank you all for being engaged and taking part of this process and shaping and making sure our taxpayer dollars work for you. I'd like to also recognize the members of the police department brass who are here present today. We have other department heads, the mayor's chief of staff, Tanny Washington, city council chief of staff, Mona Parikh, chief financial officer, Ms. Marshall Bassnight, and we have our finance committee members and other council persons members as well. At this time, I'd like to call the budget hearing for the Wilmington Police Department to order. I'd like to first start by recognizing members of the Finance Committee here in attendance this evening by doing a roll call. Council Member Field, 8th District.
Present.
Council Member Spadola at large.
Present.
Council President Congo. I'd like to also recognize other council persons in attendance. Council Member Mills.
Present.
Council Member Fields.
Present.
Council Member White, 1st District.
Present.
I'd like to also inform the public that public comments will be given at the end of each department's budget hearing, as we typically do. We look forward to engagement from the public. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. And if there's anything that we don't cover in today's hearing, we will cover it. Please let you know that council will follow up with the departments and get the answers. And as always, we publish all answers and the complete slideshows on our wilmdebudget.org website. We are limited, of course, due to time constraints, as we have a lengthy agenda this evening. So again, everything won't be covered, but we will make sure stuff that's not covered is published on the website. All questions by council members and the public should, of course, be budget related. Again, programmatic questions. I like to grant a little leeway, but we have a lot to get through, and things that can't be answered today. Again, we will follow up with the department to get the answers. And I kindly ask my colleagues, again, as always, questions will be at the end of the presentations. And now I will turn it over to Mr. Winkler from OMB. He will give a financial overview of the police department budget changes, and then I will turn it over to Chief Campos, and he will introduce his team and go over the mission of the police department, and then we'll dive straight into the question and answer. Floor is yours, Mr. Winkler.
All right. Thank you, Chairman Johnson, and good evening. Tonight I'll be providing an overview of the FY2024 Police Department budget. So excluding the state pension contribution, the proposed FY2024 general fund budget is $63.2 million, which is up $1.4 million or 2.3% compared to the FY2023 budget. Personal services, which account for 84% of the department's budget, are up $561,000 or 1.1%. MS&E is also up at $627,000 or 17.9% compared to the FY23 budget. Total staffing across all funds is 374 FTE, which is up 1 from last year. And total authorized strength for sworn officers is 312, which is unchanged. Next slide. Okay, so let's take a look at the major funding changes for FY 2024, starting with the position changes. First, the department added a full-time victim services specialist at a cost of $76,000. This had previously been a grant-funded temporary position. And second, the 18 emergency call operators were upgraded from grade H to grade K at a total cost of nearly $138,000. And finally, 4 other positions received upgrades for a total increase of nearly $14,000. Now, exclusive of these changes, regular salaries are budgeted to increase by $964,000. This includes steps and COLAs as per the rank and file contract, as well as estimated COLAs and mandatory steps for all other employees. Combined overtime costs are budgeted to increase by nearly $75,000. This is based on a reallocation of overtime and special events overtime to better reflect historical spending, with regular OT increasing by $299,000 and special events OT decreasing by $207,000. There's also a net $675,000 decrease to employee benefits, exclusive of the pension pass-through. The largest component of this is a nearly $1.4 million reduction to the city-sponsored pensions due to the implementation of a revised pension amortization schedule. This is partially offset by a $299,000 increase to the state pension contributions due to rate increases in the state-sponsored plans. All right, on the MS&E side, which is up a net $627,000. The largest MS&E change is to the consultants line, which includes $165,000 for the biennial promotional exam, which was last performed in FY 2022. In addition, the contracted maintenance services line increased by nearly $202,000. This includes $109,000 increase to the neighborhood camera maintenance agreement, $35,000 for public safety building cameras, and a variety of smaller increases to existing contracts, which total nearly $58,000. And finally, other non-capitalized equipment increased by $142,000. Major components of this increase include an additional $100,000 to purchase dress vest outer carriers, as well as $20,000 for technical resource unit computer equipment upgrades. All right, so that concludes my presentation on the police department budget. And Chair, the floor is yours.
Okay. All right, then, thank you very much, Mr. Winkler. And now I will turn it over to, I always want to call you Captain, Chief Campos. Chief Campos, to introduce your team and then give an overview of police department goals and mission. Then we can dive into question and answer.
Good evening, Chair Johnson. Thank you for having me. Seated to my left is Sergeant Nelida Vega. She's with our fiscal unit, and seated to my right is Corporal Diana Augusto. The mission of the Wilmington Police Department, as I see it moving forward, is to continue to reduce gun violence, reduce the level of crime in the city. As you know, in 2022, we ended the year with a 29% reduction in shootings and I believe a 30% reduction in shooting victims, as well as a 60-something% homicide reduction as well. So with that said, what's also really important to me is also to continue to build on the relationships with the community by having the officers attend community meetings, work with the residents to work through some issues that are long-term and short-term, or wherever else where needed. So that's where I'm moving the department. That's why I created the community engagement unit shortly after taking the appointment, and I'm looking to expand that as we move forward.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Chief. Guess we can just dive right into it. Can you give a overview of the strategic plan for addressing gun violence? As you mentioned in your opening, it's always something we have to be vigilant on. So would you mind talking about what the plans are for this general funds and also use of ARPA funds?
Yeah, so what I'm doing to address the violence and prevention is to continue applying the business management principles to policing. This ensures focus and accountability through our CompStat methodology. We meet every Thursday. We go over everything that happened in the city to make sure that we're addressing the issues that are happening, and also to make sure that we identify any trends that are going on. At that point, the captains of each sector report out on the incidents that are happening in their neighborhoods, and also to make sure that they have a plan on how they're going to address it if something is going on. So we also address that the violence through district integrity, having the same officers in the same neighborhoods when they report and are deployed to work. That ensures accountability, also builds relationships with the community. With that said, we also have our intelligence-led policing. You know, we meet once a month or once a week with our state and federal partners and other entities to make sure that we collaborate on information that is occurring across Newcastle County in general. As we know, crime doesn't just end at the boundaries of Wilmington. You know, it goes back and forth through the county and throughout the state, and we want to make sure that we stay on top of that and share that information. We also have the enhanced gun stat, where we meet once every 2 weeks to go over, you know, some of the players that have been arrested to make sure that, you know, we can get the most out of the arrest, whether it's a state level, keep it at the state level, or move on to the federal level. We also continue to have the group violence intervention. We have the call-outs. We identified individuals who are on probation, who we know and have identified to be involved in some of our shootings. As they come in, social services offers them the ability to get out of a life of crime. So we're continuing to work on that as well. We also use anti-violence overtime funds to identify areas through technology and also through our officers that we know are issues, that we know are areas that we're having issues, so that we can get the most bang for our buck when we do sign these officers up for overtime. And then we also meet 3 times a week, and we discuss ShotSpotter technology of incidents that happen throughout the city to make sure that we don't miss anything as these incidents are happening, and we're receiving this information through ShotSpotter. Now, the ARPA funding question, you know, we have used some of the ARPA funding to augment some of the camera projects on the east side and the northeast part of the city. ARPA funds are also being used or will be used to hire 2 crime analyst positions, 2 crime services specialist positions, as well as 1 mental health clinician. And that is due to the increase in individuals that are in need of service. And as I go to question 1, letter B, our role with the Community-Based Public Safety Collective is to work in a partnership with them where we provide support, advice on areas of the city where we believe they can have an effective role in preventing retaliatory incidents.
And that's the program led by Dr. Deborah Mason.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Would like to recognize Vice Chair Harley and
Thank you.
Councilmember Oliver as well. Turning to question number 2, Chief, can you discuss, I know some of it you may have covered in the first part, but can you discuss more, not just the gun violence aspect, but the community engagement aspect? And you mentioned some programs even in your overview. Can you give a rundown of what those programs are and what the funding ask from council is?
Yeah, so the community engagement unit, like I mentioned, was something that I created when I came into the appointment. And it was something that I seen as a sector captain for 5.5 years that was needed. Going to community meetings on the west side of town, I seen a need for a unit that will respond to long-term issues that the community is having, such as vacant properties, loitering, parking issues, speeding issues, things of that nature, so that they could have a more of a focus, I guess, attention to those incidents to try to reduce them or even eliminate them. So what I did was I created this unit with 1 lieutenant, 1 sergeant, as well as 6 officers at this point, 2 that are assigned per sector, 1 to Sector 1, 1 to Sector 2, and 1 to Sector 3. We have a total of 3 sectors in the city of Wilmington. I'm looking to expand that unit, and those individuals were assigned and transferred from our Uniformed Services Division. Other programs and initiatives that we have and continue to do is the community resource fairs. I believe so far we've had 6 or 7 of them in the last 6 or 7 months. We try to have one every month at a different location throughout the city. We partner with about 35 different social service agencies that are and nonprofits to bring to bring services to residents of that area. So they've been really helpful and received from the community as well. And then we have community walks that we have once a week. Every Thursday at 1 o'clock, we identify a different area of the city where we partner with Westside Health, the Henrietta Johnson Health Center, and other partners to walk the neighborhoods and bring that outreach and those services out to community members. And then we also have, our continue to have our canines officers go to different areas where we're asked to be to conduct demonstrations and build relationships with the youth in the city and also around the city. We also have our Youth Police Academy. Last year it was very successful. We had 2 sessions. We originally planned to have 1. We ended up having 2 because of the amount of children that were interested in being part of the academy. We ended up having 2 sessions of 2 weeks and 20 children for each session. This year we plan on expanding that and partnering with the fire department to have a joint police and fire academy for these children of the city. We also have the Learn to Ride program that we continue at the PAL Center. So far, I believe we've had 12 sessions where officers respond to the PAL Center, teach the children who have registered on bike safety and also how to learn how to ride bikes. That improves those community relations with the police officers and the children of our city. We also have a Cops in Schools program. Right now, it's only at 1 location. It's at Warner. It's conducted by Officer Banks, Samaya Banks, who goes to the school and after school program, she teams up with 5th graders and has a close relationship with them where they talk about public safety and police community relations.
Thank you very much, Chief. We can go to discussing topic that's all departments have had is talk about vacancies. Can you mention the vacancies and the impact on your department and what the timeline and game plan for filling those vacancies are?
Yes, currently we have 34 vacant positions in the police department. 19 of those are police officers, patrol officers. Those are due through attrition, resignations, retirements, so forth and so on. We have 3 emergency call operator positions, 2 of which were created because individuals were promoted up to supervisory level. And then we have 1 senior emergency communication specialist that became vacant in January of 2023. And then we have an emergency communication specialist, and that became vacant as of March of 2023. We also have 16 temporary positions for the crossing guards. There is supposed to be 45 total, and we're 16 down. So total of 40 positions at this point. And we're looking to the police academy. We're in the process right now. We anticipate that as we go through the process, the timeline now is to hopefully start in August with a graduation date of sometime in December of 2023. And the other positions, we're currently looking to post those or fill those as well.
All right. Can you discuss any highlights of any position changes? Again, if there's nothing, super earth-shattering. You don't necessarily have to, cover it in full detail because I know it's in the slide.
Yeah, it's again the emergency call operators. We did have some that went pay grade. They moved up from pay grade H to pay grade K. Some senior emergency communication specialists were upgraded from pay grade L to a step 7. Senior communication supervisor was reclassified in communications from a communication supervisor from a pay grade R to step 4. And there's currently a grant-funded victim services specialist position that will be added to the fiscal year 24 personnel once that grant has ended. And that grant is scheduled to end in March of 2024. So we'll be covered for most of the budget year, and then we'll have to pick up the cost at that point to fund it.
All right, very well. We can go to this question, and I want you to spend some time on this, because I know it's going to be before council soon, but can you discuss the authorized strength of 312? You know, that's an important number. Where you're at now, what the actual is, you know, what the, you know, when the drop-off will be, you know, when you're under, and then, you know, what you're looking to do with the new class in terms of filling these spots.
Yeah, so right now, our authorized strength is, if we all know, is 312 sworn officers, which decreased from 319 in fiscal year '23. Our actual strength right now is 293 police officers. Our operational strength is 276 police officers, due to 4 being deployed to the military and 13 who are on modified duty through injuries, FMLA, and administrative duties. Now, what I'm looking to do with the class, again, hopefully we can fill these 19 positions through this police academy. And at this point, our process, you know, as you know, throughout the country, we're having difficulty with recruitment in this profession.
Can we slide forward? Next slide, WI10. I think we're on the next question. Yes, so that dovetails perfectly. So if we could talk about the class, you know, and where, since as you alluded to earlier tonight, there is a plan to do a class, I guess, this fall. So, you know, what does recruitment look like? And then, you know, what are the full plans?
Yeah, so our recruitment team, as well as our HR division, you know, they went out and went through several different colleges, universities, faith-based organizations. They had billboards throughout the city. We advertised online and everywhere else that we could. And, you know, it's the struggle is not just locally, it's a national a struggle to try to bring applicants to the police profession. In the last academy hiring process, I believe we had just a little over 100 applicants. And in this process itself, we had a total of 51 people apply for 19 positions. We recently had the orientation where we had 8 people either dropped out or just didn't show up. So currently we're at 43 applicants to try to fill 19 positions. Now my plan is that you know, we're going to try to fill as many of those positions without compromising the process, and as we vet, you know, these individuals through the process as well. And if that comes up short, then there is a plan to hopefully look into hiring some lateral transfers from other departments to fill the ranks and fill those positions.
Very well. Is there any highlights from the costs for the academy? Have they changed at all? I see that there is a breakdown included, or is that pretty much steady from previous years?
Yeah, I believe it's still pretty much steady from previous years. As you look through it, the costs for the recruits, the main cost here is some of the overtime that's required for the running a police academy. As you know, it's we don't just operate on an 8-hour day. Recruits come in early in the morning for physical fitness, which is really important. They learn a lot during those times, and we study the white book as we're doing this physical fitness, believe it or not. I ran the police academy for six sessions, so I know how important that overtime is to make sure that the individuals do come in early. It gives us time to kind of mold these individuals into police officers before they go into class, and they have an 8 or 9 hour class, depending on the class of the day. So we do want to have police officers present, at least 2 there at all times, to supervise the individuals and also to have the day-to-day operations of running a police academy.
And I would like to recognize Councilmember Cabrera, Councilmember Bracy as well. We just talked about.
I'm sorry, and Councilmember Darby.
Councilmember Darby as well. Thank you. Just going into overtime. We were just talking about that, so let's just dive into that. The next question about overtime, we talk about this year after year, trying to control overtime. So what is the planned use, or at least the $2.8 million you have you have budgeted for overtime?
Yeah, the 2.8 in overtime funding will be used across various divisions, most importantly in our patrol division. As you know, I spoke about, we have 19 vacancies at this point. And then also that goes into filling vacancies through people obviously being out sick, whether it be through COVID or other issues. That'll help with that. The overtime also will be for the crisis management team to do those high-risk warrants where they're needed. And then also for city-sponsored events, Parks and Recs, the Drug Organized Crime and Vice Division for investigations, and also for K-9 unit overtime. Some of that overtime will also be for the civilian holiday overtime, which covers contractual pay requirements for our communications personnel, court overtime for officers who are required to appear in court when outside of a regular scheduled shift, which happens often due to the various schedules. And then the department also is looking to use some of those funds for anti-violence initiatives.
Chief, if we can go into the discussion about the Real-Time Crime Center. For those who haven't seen it, it is a pretty, it is a fairly new, it's 5 or 6 years old, I believe, but can you discuss the ongoing maintenance costs and then the increase in the budget, almost $250,000 increase for this Real-Time Crime Center?
Yeah, Real-Time Crime Center is a vital part of our strategy. It's a lot of intelligence-based. It has right now we're having the increase is due to a 3 to 5% contractual increase in our contracted maintenance services. Also, currently there are 100 cameras that are citywide, 18 cameras in Sector 1, 54 cameras in Sector 2, 28 cameras in Sector 3. So there's a lot of maintenance that goes with that as well. And then we also have a total of 5 employees that are covering a 16-hour shift monitoring cameras with a 7-day coverage. The budget also includes $330,415 allocated for ShotSpotter on our yearly contract, and also includes $353,000 plus for the body-worn camera program, which is funded in part in year 1 and year 2 through the federal grant we were awarded. So that's for the Real-Time Crime Center.
Okay. All right. Chief, could you describe what the use of the consultant account line is? And we noticed that, again, there was an increase in that area as well.
Where we at? Yeah, so for 2024, 2026, again, it's a 2-year, every 2 years we do have this promotional process for sergeants and lieutenants, and there is an increase in that. The vendor for that promotional process used to be PSI Services, now it's Tallagy. The increase is partly due in part to the fact that we used to use Springfield College downtown, and it was free of charge to use that facility. They have since closed because of COVID, and that's going to cost us or it's going to result in us having to look for an alternative location facility that we can have this. And we've had it in previous years in different hotels where we book a certain amount of rooms because they're needed. And in this case, I believe we need about 33 rooms to properly go through this process for sergeants and lieutenants. There's also the $12,000 is for psychological fitness for duty testing that is required sometimes throughout the year. And then we also covers academy materials, testing, psychological, and backgrounds. And then our youth response unit, which is $76,000. That includes $3,500 for a sign language interpreter, and also a language line that we use as well. I mentioned there about the youth response unit, the clinicians, which are trained in the child and family traumatic stress intervention model, which was developed at the Yale Child Study Center. This model uses several screening tools in order to assess the level of trauma and exposure and symptoms experienced by a child. Clients will, in this case, will not be discharged until a reduction in symptoms is achieved, or if the client needs a different form of care. And in 2021, this unit served 328 individuals. In 2022, it was 191 individuals served. There was a drop in individuals served, and that was kind of consistent with the crime numbers going down as well. And then again, to answer the question that was asked, the Youth Response Unit is a partnership between WPD, Delaware Division of Prevention and Behavioral Health, and the Seat of Hope Counseling. And it includes 2 full-time clinicians and a program coordinator who provides clinical support and outreach to children who are exposed to trauma. And there's also a cost for CALIA. As you know, we're an accredited agency, one of that it's we pay a service fee every year of $7,000 to keep our accreditation, and it's it's also part of the contractual services.
Is there any highlights in the next question about uniforms and ammo? Any changes from year over year? Anything really to highlight there?
Is that for question 10?
Yes. Question 10.
Yes, it's there's an ask for a bomb tech suit. The prior bomb suits have expired. One bomb suit was replaced in fiscal year 23. Currently, there's 4 certified bomb techs. We're asking for one bomb suit to replace one of the expired bomb suits, and that is due to we have to outfit a female bomb tech who is new to the unit. And the life expectancy of these bomb suits it's about 10 years.
Okay. All right. Can you and take your time on this one if you need to? Can you discuss received grants and kind of or at least the process for current grants that are pending and where you expect to go with grants, especially noting council's ask for community policing, community engagement grants.
All right, if we go to, I believe you're.
And this may be a little curveball, but just to clear it up, I mean, we probably should have highlighted it, but you talk about which ones are community policing, community alternative grants as well, if you can highlight which ones.
For question 11?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
The list of grants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The one that I can quickly note here is the Fund to Combat Violent Crime. Those are individual funds that we use to supplement our deployment. So what we do is when we meet during these meetings, CompStat, EMMs, our captains identify areas of need where they're seeing an increase in maybe some crime or some shot spotter alerts, and then what they do is they analyze this data through our street crime mapping, and then they deploy their officers to the community to help reduce whatever is going on at the time in those areas. So those funds are used for that, and usually we disperse that throughout the different captains, different sectors, to make sure that whatever is going on, that we have officers in those areas walking the beats, being visible, so that not only does it make the community safer, it also creates a feeling in the community that there's officers out there patrolling and being visible and accountable to the community.
Okay. Very well. Is there any highlights with the motor vehicle request, or is it standard use of life request or replacement for like the large trucks?
Yes, so I know one of the questions was the issue whether it's an SUV or a sedan.
Correct.
What we're seeing is that the police package for sedans is no longer available. Most of the police packages now are either SUVs, or large or smaller SUVs. And depending on what they're being used for, and the equipment that's needed, is how we're ordering these vehicles. I know we had the sedans in the past, but they don't make those police packages anymore. So we do have to go to the Explorers or even the Tahoes in some cases.
Can you discuss what the budget for the budget plans are for the police cadet program, the youth program?
Yes, we have $75,000 budgeted for 3 to 5 cadets that work on a part-time basis, about 20 hours a week. 25,000 is budgeted for uniforms and equipment. That includes polo shirt, uniform pants, radio equipment, traffic vests for safety. They're used at various educational institutions throughout city of Wilmington, community centers, nonprofits, and faith communities. They work with officers as well in the police department and are learning about the police profession. In the last process, I believe we had 3 cadets. What's interesting and it's good to see is that one of those individuals is in our current process to be a police officer, and one was hired by the Newcastle City Police Department.
Thank you, Chief. If we could go talk about any highlights again with the equipment account. We noticed there was probably 110,000 increase, which was substantial for this account line. Do you have a reason why?
Yeah, so there's 100,000 to outfit the officers with dress vest outer carriers. Life expectancy of these uniforms is about 5 years. We're looking to purchase 180 vest carriers. What it does is it relieves the load-bearing weight from the hip and waist area and the lower back up into the upper torso, to put all the equipment up in the torso area. Right now, we've been asked by the dispensary because of the ADA, American Disabilities Act. There's 2 officers who have been approved to wear this vest currently. And the problem with it is that there's no consistency, right? I want uniformity among the police officers. I want them to have the ability to wear these vests, but be in uniform, and to order the right one that fits. So we're looking to do with this before we purchase 180 is to do a pilot program with different individuals to see what's best. So this will, without a doubt, provide a wellness for the officers, and whether male or females, because at the gun belt level, that's about 20 pounds of extra weight. And when you're sitting in a car for 11-hour shift, 3 days in a row, that creates some health issues with lower back, the hip area. So we've looked into it. There's other departments across the nation and even locally who have gone to this outer carrier because it increases that officer wellness, and also to be in compliance with the ADA as well.
All right. And to talk about vests, can you any highlights with the training that's being offered to the officers, specifically relating to cultural diversity, DEI programs in your department?
Yes, so cultural diversity is part of our WPD Academy. In the Academy, we bring in individuals from the community that are diverse, and they speak to the recruits about their culture, so that they can learn the individuals that they're going to be servicing in the city of Wilmington. It's also part of our ongoing in-service yearly training curriculum throughout the department.
Is there any highlights with the crossing guard budget, or has it remained consistent over prior years?
Yeah, it's remained consistent. The only issue that we've seen and we struggle with, and speaking to the crossing guards themselves, is that it's difficult to, again, recruit crossing guards because of the staggered shifts, working morning and then coming back in the afternoon, and then also the number of hours. So right now, we currently have 35 locations, which 31 of those locations are filled, and 4 remain open.
Thank you. And just getting into the last preset question, is there any highlights with the police department org chart? Were there any changes?
The changes that I did make, I went back and I kind of dispersed the responsibilities of the inspectors. One inspector is in charge of the uniform operations as well as the special operations division, and then the other inspector of investigative operation is in charge of the human resources, investigative divisions, and support divisions. Before, it was split between the administrative and the operational side.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much, Chief Campos. That concludes the preset question portion. Now we're going to open the floor to members of council for direct questions. I'll kick it off. Something I've said, I don't even know, going 3 or 4 years now probably about the police department, but are we finally looking into mental health responders, mental health pilot program funding? Is that something that is in the pipeline? Because noting that I know last night we had the pleasure of attending an event with Christiana Care, in which the mayor attended, many members of council. This was an issue. And this is top of mind of pretty much all of council. Do we have something? Because I don't see a budget item for that, and I really, council is demanding it. Is it in there?
So no, it's not in there. So what I'm doing is, as I spoke about it last night, I'm planning a meeting with Christiana Care as a first step. Mental health in the community is really important to me, as well as mental health in the police department with our police officers. So I'm planning a meeting with the executives at Christiana Care to see what they can offer us as far as, I guess, as clinicians, to be able to partner with the police department. What it looks like right now, it's developing. I'm looking at different models throughout the region, state, county, and even outside the state of Delaware to see what is it that we can do in Wilmington, because every community is unique. What may work in one community may not work here. So I just want to get different views and different models to see what best works here, and then what partners can we partner up with that are already doing it here in the state, which Christiana Care is, and so that they're ahead of the game. So hopefully we can get to that point where we can partner with Christiana Care and do those outreach, co-responder models with police and clinicians.
And as a brief follow-up, and that's very good news, and that's actually, I think, what council wanted to hear some of. And so moving forward, if, say, a program can get kind of constructed, I imagine that would happen mid-year. So is your administration open to, I guess, a budget amendment if we need to add more funds to fund this program? Is that something we would look at, Chief of Staff Washington?
Yes, absolutely.
Mid-year.
Yeah, mid-year. Yeah, I mean, the resources aren't in the current budget, but once Chief develops a plan on how he wants to go about this, we don't want to rush into anything of this nature. Definitely have to come before council for a budget amendment.
Thank you very much, Chief of Staff. And I just have one kind of switching gears, and just focusing on big picture. It's an issue that has come up among many different meetings, but it's your officers. Number one, recruiting and retaining officers. So is the difficulties in recruitment, and it wasn't really highlighted here, but what action plan do you need from council in terms of budgetary fix to make this happen? Is it more pay? Is it not requiring them to be city residents? Is it both? I mean, what do you need? I guess I'm putting it in your plate.
Yeah, well, money's always good, right? It's always a motivator, but not always, right? So I talk to my counterparts, and there's a lot of departments across the country who are offering bonuses, and they're still having difficulties in bringing people to the ranks. As you know, Newcastle County Police Department has a $10,000 hiring bonus, and they still are struggling to bring people on board. So there's other things that we need to look at down the road. Residency requirement I believe, is one of them. There are roadblocks. As you know, the profession has become really, really difficult in trying to attract people to it, and not just police. This is across the board in all professions. So when we look at some of the things that we can maybe change, then we definitely need to have a discussion on those things.
Chief of Staff Washington.
Yes, I just wanted to add, when it comes to salaries of police officers, we just have to keep in mind that the entire force is unionized. So whatever we manage in terms of salary increase has to be negotiated. The only individual not unionized in the department is the chief.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Chief of Staff. All right, I'm going to now turn it to members of the Finance Committee first for any questions. Councilmember Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Now, I was just going to say in question one, I see the ARPA's fund. I do see one mental health clinician in there. So I was going to say that was good. It says 2 victims service specialist position and 1 mental health clinician. Because I was going to mention that, but I see one is in there, and that is an improvement. I just want to make a couple of comments. I would like to, because the chief is new, I would like to thank him for seeing the officers walking around on the east side and walking around on the north side. So at the Civic Association meetings, it's been noticed. What's one other thing I wanted to mention? I think when you're talking about promotions, I think we do have our a sergeant over on the east side, a minority sergeant over there who's doing a very good job. I hear a lot of good things about her over there, and I'm glad that she's been promoted as sergeant. And how many minority sergeants are there now?
I believe there's 4.
Okay, I really have no questions. I'd just like to thank you for the work you've done since you just started. I can see the improvement with the community engagement in the 3rd district, and it's noticeable because people are calling me saying they're seeing the officers walking, so that's just a plus. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right. Any other council members in chambers? Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to echo some of Councilmember Oliver's comments in terms of the good work that is happening within the police department as it relates to, number one, the community engagement, the community walks, attending civic association meetings. I also want to say that I want to thank the chief for attending the civic association meetings and sharing with the community, your vision and your plan. Because of course, with the turnover, a number of residents were wondering like, oh, what's going to happen now? So that is really appreciated. And a lot of residents are really feeling good about the new leadership in terms of how you have repositioned, especially the community engagement, how their primary role is to really understand the community, the needs of the community, and not having to multitask, be on the radio, listening to calls, multitasking. They're focusing strictly on the community. So I wanted to say that's great. And on page number 9, where you mention The sign language is 30. The amount for the sign language interpreter, is it an interpreter? Is that per budget? Like, what is the time frame? What are those funds for per what? For the
I'm sorry,
interpreter.
what do you mean? It's usually for the fiscal year. It's split between the sign language and the language line.
Yeah, the question is that per budget?
Yes, every year.
Okay, per budget. And then there was one other. Oh, 15 real quick, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please. No problem.
The grants that you mentioned on, under question 11, specifying the available grants. So these numbers that you are sharing with us tonight, are these numbers before we apply for the grants? Or have you dialed in any of the possible grants as it relates to some of the figures that we're reporting and proposing tonight? On question number 11.
These grants are solicited grants, so they go based on the number of personnel that we have at the time when we apply for them. And so the number that's usually the amount is the amount that we're actually awarded.
So they're not included, because of course you don't know
No,
if you,
the first column amount is what we're awarded.
you are awarded. Okay, great. Okay, so we definitely are taking in consideration all the different grants.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you. Fields, did you say Fields?
Yeah, it was, I think Councilmember Cabrera was before you, but if she
Oh.
concedes,
Please, I cede to
I
my,
apologize.
I cede to my colleague.
Floor is yours, Councilmember Fields, and then Councilmember.
I just have one question. So, the grants for the overtime, I see you got 2. How often can you apply for those grants? As much as they come up? I mean, well, I'm just kind of, I answered the question.
Our grants and the ones that are listed here are usually solicited every year for us.
Okay.
So, like the Fund to Combat Violent Crimes is a 1-year grant, and it comes, like every year, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And Councilmember Cabrera.
Thank you very much. Chief, recently we were meeting in your office about crime prevention through environmental design. And one of the things that came up was the LPR cameras, which is license plate recognition. I know that is a conversation you've been having with the administration about getting some of those. Can you explain a little bit of what LPRs are? What are the advantages? What is the cost? And how that would help with policing in the city of Wilmington if we were to have those included? I didn't see a number for them in the budget. So
Yeah, so-
wondering if that's something we can add.
And and if you could explain what LPR is, because I think I know what it is, but I want to make sure the public knows.
Yeah, so LPRs are license plate readers. And what we're looking to do is with some of the ARPA funding, is to place them in locations throughout the city. I believe right now we're looking at possibly, I believe it's 25 or more LPRs in different locations. And what we would like to do is to get them in the ingress and egress areas of the city, along, Newcastle Avenue, Maryland Avenue, Concord Avenue, so that when these vehicles pass through, the license plate, from what I know, is that it's captured and is stored in the cloud, right? So if I go back, if there's an incident or that I want to have information on a specific model of a vehicle or even a tag number, we can put that into the system and the software, and it'll show me at which locations that vehicle has hit at. So it'll tell me whether it left the city or if it's even in the city still. So it's definitely another tool that will benefit us in our strategies to reduce crime. As we know, a lot of these individuals that are committing the shootings steal cars, and then they go back and forth and do these drive-bys, and then either leave the city or go to another part of the city. So this will give us the ability to go into this software, look for a certain vehicle, that's around the time of the incident and see which location and direction they have gone. Gives us more of an idea of where to look and what neighborhoods or which direction we believe they went, or even if it's still in the city and we can still look for it. So it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. Right now, we're currently in the process, and hopefully we can have this implemented soon.
Great, thank you so much. May I proceed?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, can I just give you
Yes,
the number,
Chief of
the
Staff.
estimate? I just received it today. So it's 175,000 for estimated 39 installations.
Yeah, that's great. We were looking, just getting started with a few. Councilman Spadola and I were going to sponsor a couple of them, but I'm glad that you're getting the grant for them. We'll use our ARPA money elsewhere. Currently, how do you respond to a mental health crisis if, let's say, a family does call, they're having an incident, somebody's having a breakdown, somebody's threatening to commit suicide? I do understand that sometimes, like what happens, the suicide line says we will send a mental health professional along with the police to that home. Is there a standard, MO?
Yeah, so our officers respond out. As you know, they receive training through outside organizations that come in, that are organizations that deal in mental health. So they go out, and one of the things we're doing, and actually this week, I believe we have 5 or 6 officers down in Dover receiving CIT training, which is crisis intervention training. Currently, there's about 100 officers on our department, mostly in our patrol division, who are trained in crisis intervention, so that when they go out, they already know what to say, what not to do, things of that nature, and what to look for. And if they see something where an individual is going through a crisis, they know the next steps to take, right? Try to de-escalate it, and when the situation is under control, try to get them some assistance through the CAPES program down at the Wilmington Hospital. But one of the things that I'm looking in doing, as we spoke earlier, is bringing some of this Christiana Care clinicians and partnering with them to see if we can do some type of co-responder approach to some of these individuals. So.
Thank you. And one more
Yes, please.
question and then a comment. The Community Engagement Unit, of course, we're elated to have them out and about in the community. I know you mentioned them in the budget, but is there a plan to have increased members in the Community Engagement Unit, to have more of that presence, basically where we used to be when we had a community policing unit?
Yeah, so I actually posted for 3 additional officers to add to what we already have. So right now we have 2 in each sector. I want to add 1 more to each sector for a total of 9 at this point. So when the strength goes up, hopefully, with this new academy and other avenues, then hopefully we can expand it a little bit more. But it's been well received. These officers are going out there. And I just want to mention that, even though they are doing, they're engaging and bringing police services, I try to remind them, and they know that they're still police officers. Down on the east side, they received information from the community, and they went out and arrested an individual where they got into a foot chase, and there was a handgun recovered off the individual. But that's because of the trust and that partnership that they're building with community. And when they see them in action, after they receive the information, and that very same day, they make the arrest and take that individual off the street who's causing some disturbance. It goes a long way into building that relationship. So they're still out there, and they're still, doing their job. They're still enforcing the law and arresting individuals that are causing some issues in our communities.
Okay, well, I'm going to close with a comment. First, I want to say thank you. We are truly elated as how public safety is looking these days in Wilmington. The numbers are down. I know that you have been well received as a chief from your rank and file, as well as the community across the city. And that helps to have those positive relationships that were created from being born and raised and being one of our city boys on the west side. And speaking of the west side, as I make my rounds throughout the city, I will tell you, last night I was coming home and I said, let me just go down Conrad and Harris and see what's going on, because I tend to drive around the vacant properties to see what activity might be going on. But the police beat me to it. The car was in front of me, and seems like the same route I was taking, they were taking. So I said, well, I'm not needed to patrol the streets because you got them out there everywhere. The other night, I also went past Kirkwood because I know we have 9 vacant properties over there. And sure enough, there were people gathered in front of 2 of them. And before I even got to the corner, there was a police officer already getting ready to get out of the vehicle. And I said to her, well, I'm just here, introduced myself and told her about the vacant. She says, oh, I'm on my way to get them, remove them from the front of those vacants. So I can tell you, your people are doing such a great job. And I have to say something about, the captain over on the west side, Captain Rosario. He has been so engaged with us on council, constantly communicating. And most recently, I got a call from a constituent that they had a person in a vacant property just sleeping on the porch. And that was of concern to that person. And immediately the captain went over there. They found some things. They also couldn't go in the back to see if there was, a way for anyone to get into that property. Before you know it, L&I was involved. They organized a clean out. They cleaned out an alleyway, the backyard. Public Works was called. Our vendor was called. It was like complete, response from everyone in the city. But it was initiated by your captain and others. So I just want to say thank you. And I'm so glad that we're working together and that the community is noticing the difference, and they too are grateful. So those are my comments, and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
We have Council Member Mills.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to echo the sentiments of many of my colleagues and say thank you, Chief, for the much needed changes being made, a lot of the community minded changes, and say thank you for that. And had one question in reference to how beneficial the shot spotter technology has been for the department.
Yes, ShotSpotter is invaluable to us. We go over ShotSpotter every Monday for the incidents that happened over the weekend, just to make sure that we didn't miss anything, that we're collecting those casings, that we're putting them into our NIBING database to build cases, to look for video, and just to follow up on those things. And sometimes, I'll give you an example. Down in Southbridge, we had a ShotSpotter alert. We didn't receive any calls for service from the community. The officer was alerted on his phone. He was in the area, probably a block and a half away, responded, and seen 2 individuals walking out of the backyard. He immediately detained them as he knew that the ShotSpotter was alerting in that yard or in that area. As he approached them, he detained them. He called for a K-9 officer to come, who has the ability to detect ballistics, and he was able to find 2 firearms in the backyard, and those individuals were arrested. And all they were doing at that point was they were test firing their handguns. But if it wasn't for ShotSpotter, those are 2 handguns and an incident that we wouldn't have had because we didn't have any cause for service at that point. It was all police initiated because of ShotSpotter. Police response initiated because of ShotSpotter.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Now I'll turn it over to members of the public in chambers. Do we have any online? Okay. All right. I'll turn it back to council for final comments and questions. One thing I wanted to question, and we actually did not touch on this in the preset questions, but the tracking of the amount of citizen complaints, and save the past 5 years, and where the department is heading in terms of engagement with the community. If we have an idea of what just the number and volume of complaints are, do we have those figures readily right now, or is that something you can get us?
Yep, some I can give you. I don't have them right now.
Okay, and then also goes in hand the amount of obviously lawsuits or settlements paid out, because for me, I look at the finances of the city. I look at citizen complaints as a needed, necessary evil, but it costs OPS hours, off professional standard hours, and it's lost hours in which we're not worried about addressing, root causes of violence and violence on the street. So I just am interested in looking at those numbers just to see, because if the reforms are working, then we should be getting less complaints and less taxpayer dollars spent probably on those complaints and less settlements because there's not as many complaints. So I'm just interested in seeing what those numbers bear out. I'm hopeful it's in the right direction. And then also, just on that note, is there funding specifically for the Citizen Oversight Board? I know that's been in the works. We're still working on that. It's been in prior years' budgets. Is that contract still in the budget?
That's in the mayor's office.
Oh, the mayor's office.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So okay. All right. All right. Very well. So I look forward to receiving those numbers. But again, I want to echo the sentiments, everyone. I think we've seen that your guardians out there in the community are working, and they're working very hard and changing up how they are not policing the neighborhoods, but part of the community. So I'd like to commend you and your team, and keep up the great work. Thank you. Councilmember.
Yes, I have a question. I didn't hear us tap into it with the opium addiction and the overdose rate, not just on the west side, but throughout the city of Wilmington and in the 3rd District. Do we have a number of the individuals who have OD this year?
I can get that for you.
And are your officers provided with the Narcans in their car? Because I know we're constantly walking around in the 3rd District, and some of your, like you said, the outreach workers from Henrietta Johnson, and I know Lieutenant Governor's office that gave us like 51 day. Do y'all have access to them in all the officers' cars, since that overdose seems to be on the rise, especially on the west side? And then,
Yes. I guess about back in January, all the officers in patrol were trained, and they actually carry them on their gun belt, on their tool belt.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
That's really good. And just one last comment. I like to see some of the officers at 9th and Pine and 23rd and Pine, since that seems to be the heavy populated area where I get a lot of complaints from. And I like to thank Marquise Gordon and Sergeant Spurman for helping out with the Heron Manor building over in the northeast area. So that's all. Thanks a lot. Oh, one last thing. I am really proud to see that you have added the inspectors and broken down them job duties again, because I thought that was really sad the last time, the way that went. But that was all for me.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember. Final round. Vice Chair Harley, I believe you're up next if you're ready, or do you want me to switch to Fields?
You can go to Fields.
Okay. Councilmember Fields, final comments.
Well, the answer to question number 8, it says currently there are a total of 5 employees covering a 16-hour shift.
Can you speak into your mic?
I just think I talk loud. My apologies. Currently, there are a total of 5 employees covering a 16-hour shift monitoring cameras with 7-day coverage. My question is, do you feel that 5 employees is enough to cover that shift? And if you added 1 or 2 more, would that, how would that like decrease or increase your budget? Would that, or is it just maybe nobody wants to look at the cameras all day?
No, I must say that the 5 individuals that we have there now are doing a tremendous job. I haven't had the time to assess it, to ask them, hey, is 5 enough, to talk to the supervisors to see if it's I guess a job task assessment to see if we need more or maybe we need less. But I think the 5 that are there now are doing a tremendous job.
Thank you.
All right. Vice Chair Harley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one final comment or question. Under question number 1, where it mentions that ARPA funding had been augmented for the east side and the northeast of the city. My question is, have we purchased those cameras?
So what we're in the process of doing now is they're looking to lay the fiber optics line from 4th Street all the way up to the Brandywine, and then going across the river up towards Market Street. So right now what they're doing is hopefully In the past, those lines have been used by multiple entities, and sometimes you have a lag where you start seeing that distortion. What we're looking to do is to have those lines solely for the cameras, so you don't have that distortion. At this point, I don't know if the cameras have been purchased. I don't know if Chief Washington has an answer on that.
We're under contract, and I believe the name of the organization is Advantech.
Avantech, yes.
Yeah. So it's already under contract under ARPA, but I can't tell you whether the cameras have actually been purchased, but they've been, they're included as a part of that entire contract.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. All right. Again, I would like to thank Chief Campos and his team for taking part in this hearing this evening. It was a lot of robust discussion. We look forward to Public Safety Committee. We can talk about more expanded programming and plans. But thank you for the work that you're doing, and already in your first 100 days, I believe you've already been making a lot of changes that City Council has been asking for. So again, thank you to OMB, Mr. Winkler, of course, and Director Greco. And as always, we will provide follow-up information on the WILM-DE budget website. And the numbers and stats will be on there as well. At this time, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So
All right.
moved.
It's been properly moved and seconded. The Finance Committee hearing for the Police Department has concluded. We will convene a Fire Department, I believe, in 5 minutes.
Fine.
Seven. We can make it 7 minutes, so it's 7:45 on the dot. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Wilmington. Welcome to the finance budget hearing for the Wilmington Fire Department. I thank you all for being engaged, both in chambers and at home, and for paying attention and tracking our progress as we move forward. And at this time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. The first start by recognizing members of the Finance Committee here in attendance. Doing roll call, Vice Chair Harley, 4th District.
Present.
Councilmember Oliver, 3rd District.
Present.
Councilmember Bracy at large.
Present.
Councilmember Field, 8th District.
Present.
Councilmember Spadola at large. Council President Congo.
Here.
I'd like to also recognize other council persons in attendance by doing a roll call. Councilmember Mills at large.
Present.
Councilmember Fields, 5th District.
Present.
Councilmember Darby, 2nd District. All right. I would like to inform everyone that, as always, public comments will be given at the end of each department's budget hearing, and we look forward to engagement and participation from the public. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes. If there's any follow-up information during during the budget hearing tonight, because we are limited by time, we will track and update the question and answers on the city's budget website. All right, so everything will be covered. But again, if it's not covered tonight, we will, both the PowerPoint slides and information, as well as the answers will be on there. Anything that's not answered or answered tonight, Chief Financial Officer Marshall Bass-Knight from City Council will track and follow up with the department. And at this time, I kindly ask the council members to hold your questions to the end of the presentation. And the presentation of preset questions, and then we'll move to questions from the floor. And at this time, I will turn it over to OMB Assistant Budget Director, Mr. Winkler, and then it'll be followed by a overview of the department goals and missions for the fire department by Chief Looney and his team. And then we'll dive into the question and answer. So the chief floor is yours, Mr. Winkler.
All right, thank you, Chairman Johnson, and thank you for inviting me to provide an overview of the FY 2024 Fire Department budget. All right, so excluding the state pension contribution, the proposed FY 2024 general fund budget is nearly $24.2 million, which is up $1.2 million, or 5.4% compared to the FY 23 budget. Personal services, which make up 80% of the department's budget, are $19.5 million, and up $944,000 or 5.1%. MS&E is also up with an increase of $155,000 or 16% compared to the FY23 budget. Total staffing across all funds is 160 FTE, which is unchanged from FY23. And total authorized strength for sworn officers is 156. That's also unchanged. Next slide. All right, so here are the major funding changes for FY 2024, starting with personal services. Regular salaries are budgeted to increase by nearly $335,000, which is based on estimated COLAs and mandatory step increases. In addition, overtime costs are budgeted to increase by $198,000 in order to better reflect prior year actuals and ensure that minimum staffing requirements are met. There's also a net $476,000 increase to employee benefits. This is due to the combined effect of city-sponsored pensions decreasing by $131,000 due to revised pension amortization schedules, along with a $204,000 increase to state-sponsored pension plans and a $322,000 increase in healthcare costs. All right, as to MS&E, which in total is up by a net $155,000. The largest MS&E change this year is consultants, which includes $70,000 for the biennial promotional exam, which was previously budgeted in FY 2022. In addition, wearing apparel and safety is up $36,000. The majority of this is for the $20,000 purchase of new 2.5-inch hose, with the remainder the result of cost increases for uniforms, gear, and protective equipment for current firefighters, as well as the upcoming rookie class. Electricity is up $20,000, which is based on historical trending and rate increases. And finally, contracted maintenance services includes $10,000 for third-party high-pressure hose testing. All right, so that concludes my presentation on the fire department budget. Chair, the floor is yours.
Does anybody have any questions specifically for OMB? All right, seeing none, I will then turn it over to Chief Looney. You can give number one, introduce your team, your brass with you, and anyone else present, and then we can go into the vision, the mission of your department and where it's going, and then we'll dive into the question and answer. Floor is yours, Chief.
Good evening, Chairman Johnson and council members. I would like to thank you for this opportunity. I would like to recognize Deputy Chief of Operations Gordon Davis, Battalion Chief of Support Service Carl Ziffel, Deputy Chief Gabriel Pavone was unable to attend tonight, and also our Fiscal Administrator Andrea Lewis. They play a big role in the preparation of the budget. Wilmington Fire Department, its vision of the department is to continue to provide the citizens of Wilmington with the highest level of life safety, emergency services, and property preservation. This will be accomplished through intense training, public education, prompt responses, and compassionate emergency care.
You need to go back a slide?
No, we're good right there.
Okay.
Next slide. Our performance measures, quality assurance of all our fire reports and inspections for accuracy, content completion, and submission in a timely manner. Our officer development program, which was developed and implemented several years ago, is still still continuing. We're moving into some more classes for our officer development that have not been offered. Our FEMA Incident Command System 400, that's a very high level, nationally accepted incident command system course that our officers will be going to, will be attending and attaining a certification in the near future. We're also going to continue our fire officer certifications, continuous proficiency training. We have proficiency training on a monthly basis, and then on a yearly basis we have a large skills testing that we do throughout the department, and all members participate. Cardio kinetics, we do this on a yearly basis, where we have an outside vendor, Cardio Kinetics, which they put all the personnel through, strength, push-ups, sit-ups. They put you on a treadmill. You're having a 12-lead EKG at the same time, so they're looking for any, the stress of your heart. So we are continuing that. One of our big things, and we're very proud of, and this has been a solid number for many, many years with the Wilmington Fire Department. Contain the fire to the room of origin in 90% of our incidents. That's very big. It's just a large reflection of our men and women that are out there every day on the engines and ladders. Risk reduction for the citizens of Wilmington. We do this by our continuous various public education programs, our fire drills, installation of smoke detectors, carbon monoxide alarms, and completing. We have a very comprehensive building inspection program. It incorporates our fire marshal's office along with our suppression companies, and on a daily basis they're assigned inspections. Just in this region, no other department touches our comprehensive building inspection program, and it's proved valuable on so many occasions. Our top priorities. We want to secure the funding to continue renovations of all our city fire stations. We need to replace fire apparatus according to the recommended replacement cycle. We're going to continue our free smoke and carbon monoxide alarm programs for all citizens. Increase public education programs to include community events that target children and senior citizens. Maintain our authorized strength of 156 uniform positions. Next slide, question 1.
Okay, yep, and we can dive into the questions now. Chief, it's kind of a broad question, but given the aging infrastructure in most of our neighborhoods, can you share how your department is making best use of funds so we can attack the aging homes and businesses and the quality of life issues we have as well in our hardest hit neighborhoods?
Yes, sir. Through a partnership with American Red Cross of Delmarva, partnership with Lowe's, DP&L, and the WPVI Channel 6 ABC Save a Life program, we are able to provide and install free 10-year smoke detectors, lithium battery smoke detectors, and carbon monoxide alarms to the citizens of Wilmington. We have a very aggressive fire marshals or fire prevention division that works side by side with our suppression folks out in the communities, installing the smoke detectors. We do inspections, like I said, the comprehensive building inspections as it relates to some of our aging buildings. And we're in a position where we can enforce codes, so we have a lot of that to address issues like that with some of our aging properties. As with maintenance and inspection of fire hydrants, that was in the question, that is a function of Public Works.
Okay. Very well. Thank you very much, Chief. Can you discuss the need for the department for capital funds, also considering that the city will be delayed going to the bond market for fiscal year 2022?
Yes, sir. It is our understanding that the city will go to the bond market in the near future.
That's correct.
Yes.
This year.
This year?
Yes.
Okay. And the plan is this year for what, fiscal year 2020?
Is it 22?
November, it'll be fiscal year 2024, but it'll be November of this calendar year.
Okay. Thank you for clearing that up.
So without the FY22 capital bond, it would delay replacement of our fire apparatus and our station renovations. Currently, right now, replacement of fire apparatus is scheduled every 15 years, and we currently have 6 apparatus that are over 15 years old. And our station renovations, I think we're getting ready to, station renovations, we're currently, fire station number 4, 22nd and Tatnall. We're moving towards renovation now, and I'll touch on that question further along in the program.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief. Can we talk about just more about the overall dollars of the department? What has been the department's state bond bill request for this fiscal year?
Yes, sir. We submitted for $4.5 million for apparatus and station renovation. $2.5 million would be earmarked for fire apparatus. If we're awarded the bond market or the bond money, that would go towards potentially 2 pieces of apparatus that we could replace. And also the other big one would be to start on another station renovation. We have a station renovation program, which I'll talk about in a little bit, but we're in need of, we have Station 4 now, but we're still going to have 2 stations after that that are in need of renovations. So we're hoping we will receive this funding.
Thank you very much, Chief. Oh, and I would like to recognize Councilmember Cabrera and Councilmember White, if you listed. And now if we can go to the next question, which, like you were alluding to, Chief, is about this firehouse specific project. What are the needs, especially at 2nd and Tatnall?
2nd and Tatnall, 22nd and Tatnall. 22nd and Tatnall, fire station number 4. It was built in, correct me if I'm wrong, 1978. And since then, it has not, received renovations other than, the repairs that may come up, doors. We've replaced mechanical systems, but it has not had a renovation since 1978. And the FY24 capital budget department requested $3.5 million for fire apparatus and $5.2 million for station renovations. We utilized a station renovation plan that was created in 2007 that address the renovations of the fire stations. The last station that was renovated was Station 3, which was completed in 2019. Station 3 is located at 30th and Northeast Boulevard. And as I alluded to, currently Station number 4 is underway. It started April 10th, and it's expected to be completed in 6 months, 6 to 8 months. We're excited about this, but we're looking forward to, moving on to the next stations. And just so you know, even though I'm telling you that we're closing the station, there's no interruption in service that we provide. We've relocated the apparatus that was assigned there to other stations, and we've changed around some of our response, what we call response grids, to adjust to that closing. And for the last almost 2 weeks now, we've had no issues at all. And actually, the men and women are excited that the station's getting renovated.
Chief, can you touch on the Kronos? I know it was touched on briefly with the HR presentation, but this there was, I guess, a blow up of the system last year, and there were issues with the city. The city is now going to Paycom. We've been hearing about that in multiple budget hearings. So when is the fire department going to transition, considering the fire department still is using Kronos and is not ready for Paycom? So, like, what's the status?
Okay.
Update.
Just to touch base with that, when Kronos went down, I have to, applaud our staff. We didn't miss much a beat. In a matter of a couple of days, we were back up and running. We do a lot of duplication with paper records, charts. So we did very well, and I credit that to my administrative assistant. But considering the city's Kronos database, the timekeeping system was down, like as I alluded to, 3 months. We did the manual tracking of all our personnel's time. WFD is the only city department that will continue to use the Kronos software, while other city departments, are converting to the Paycom. We will continue. We are going to Paycom like the rest of the city for payroll purposes, but the department will continue to use the software, the platform Telestaff, and that's solely for our staffing and scheduling of our personnel. Telestaff will interface with Paycom for payroll purposes only. Telestaff is a separate program and function than the Kronos workforce that we currently have citywide that is being replaced.
Got it. All right. Chief Looney, if we can move to the next question about anything to elaborate with the authorized strength. Has it changed, or is it the same as last fiscal year?
Currently, FY2024, we have 156 authorized uniform staff or personnel. FY23, we're currently at 158. We're over by 2, and that's because we just completed our 42nd academy. And our long practice has always been, when we hire an academy, we always go 5 over the total number, because we know during that 14-week period, or once they're out of the academy, during their probation time, we'll have retirements, we'll have resignations, et cetera. So it's imperative that we stick to our minimum manning, or our authorized strength. It's imperative for us as a department. So right now we have 2, but we know that there's openings that will probably be coming in the next couple months due to retirements.
All right, Chief Looney, this brings us to question 7. Take your time with this question.
Okay.
This is probably the most important one tonight, is your overtime costs. It's been I know among many issues, this has been it's always a debate with the fire department for, probably, I don't know, since the beginning, for a very long time. So if we could talk about the plan. Right now you have almost $1 million budgeted for overtime. This is almost $200,000 increase. We know you have a new academy class coming in. or your class that just is seated now.
Yes.
Your year to date currently, according to OMB, is running a little high. So, what is your department doing to control overtime costs?
The planned use of overtime is to cover vacancy and suppression that occur from vacations, sick leave, injured leave, parental leave, military leave, and attrition. I mean, the budget was based on actual data from FY23, and in budgeting for the overtime, attrition is not factored in because of the cost it's saved from regular salaries. I must say that there was a federal lawsuit that was settled that was that was taken out of our overtime budget of $122,000, I believe, 120,000, 111. So that was, some of that. We have minimum manning, and the overtime, to staff these, unfortunately, we have to staff these 6 engines and 7 ladders, and being fully staffed is imperative to keep the overtime costs down. I think we'll see as it'll start trending now that we are 2 over and we are fully staffed, that number should, trend down. There's some control measures, as I said, maintaining the authorized strength. Doctor's notes after 3 units off, doctor's notes for absences, sick leave user patterns, that we monitor. But we're trying whatever we can do to keep us fully staffed, so this is not, the issue that's, we're addressing right now.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yes, Chief of Staff.
One of the main drivers of the overtime increasing is the vacancies. So when they have to have the minimal manning to staff the apparatus. So I think one of the keys to this is when they start dropping in their number in the authorized strength, they have to start that class sooner rather than later. Because the longer you delay the class, the overtime is going to continue to increase. So it's incumbent upon the fire department to start the class sooner rather than later to mitigate that. So I just wanted to make that point.
Yes, and
Thank you.
like currently right now, we have 12 that are off on sick and injured leave. And then the way our shift works, we're a 3-platoon system. We work at 24 on, 48 off. Well, built into that, we have X amount of vacation slots that are allotted for each day. And then we have what we call a Kelly day. So every 7th tour that you work, you're granted what we call a Kelly day, which means you're off. So each day, that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with vacations. We're dealing with the sick leave, injured leave. We have, individuals that have been on injured leave for several months at this point. And that has an impact, even though we're full staff right now, but once that staffing number drops and we have those individuals on injured leave, et cetera, that's when it really hits us. But we have proven with our academies, we used to always wait till we had so many openings, 10, 12, 15 at sometimes, and put on an academy. Well, we go through the Delaware State Fire School to do our academy, even though we do all the instruction, but that's our agency that we work through. And you always had to have a minimum of 10 to start an academy or 8 to start an academy. Well, for the first time in the department's history, 2 years ago, we put our to address this and getting our minimum staffing and being very diligent about it. We opened up our academy to other departments, Chester Fire Department, Upper Darby Fire Department, to fulfill that you need X amount to get an academy up and running. And it's worked very well for us, because it shows that if we get down to like 6 openings, 7 openings, we're contacted already by Chester to, you know, for some of their guys that they're going to hire in the next couple months through grants that they're getting, if we're going to have an academy. So we were able to fulfill academy just by introducing these other agencies, which helps us in the long run because we're able to get the academy up and running. We go through our hiring process and we fulfill our minimum or our authorized strength.
Very well. We could talk about switching gears, just going to internal facing questions we had about your budget. Can you discuss your consultant account line? We recognize that it seemed like it was a little bit of an increase, so what's the need there?
The increase this time around is the biannual promotional exam. In 2022 was the last time that we conducted our promotional exam. We do it every 2 years for our lieutenants and captains. So in this FY24, we'll be conducting a promotional process beginning in February. Currently, right now, our target solution, it's our training management platform that we use that's specific to fire and EMS, and it enables us to. We have a lot of refreshers, or we have a lot of certifications throughout our department. Our personnel have that require refresher training, continuing education, and this target solution, which is at $19,000. Is what provides us with that recertification training. We're also to do department scheduling for training. We have all kinds of online forms and documents. We have a whole host of training that we can assign to our personnel. The state of Delaware for our email, our CJ system, that's $41,000. Cardiokinetics, that's our physical fitness evaluation. It's through a state contract, that's $29,000. Our network consultants, there's no vendor right now. Test for recruits, there's no vendor right now because we're not in the academy phase. Code solution, that's our plans examiner. We have a plans examiner that he is a consultant. He also works for the land use department too. And that's at $95,000. And our biannual promotional test, it's at $75,000. It's Resource Management Associates that conducts the testing. They have never increased their fees since the first time they conducted promotional tests, which was probably like 6 years ago.
This is our 4th time.
Yeah. So once we looked for, reached out for a proposal for the budget, they had to tell us that they were increasing the fees. But we're happy with this company, and that's who we were going to stay with coming up.
Are any of those vendors DBEs?
We don't really track, unfortunately, so I had no way of going. I tried to go through some of them and look them up, but I couldn't figure out which ones are or are not.
Okay. But given the citywide analysis, the department will begin to track DBEs, correct? I mean, it's a question.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Switching gears now back to the current state of affairs for your state grant and aid. Where are you, snapshot right now in terms of the spend down of those funds?
Snapshot, there is 1.2 million straight state grant and aid. Department will be utilizing the grant funds we acquired approximately 2.5 acres of land through Public Works for a training center, training area. Currently, right now, the Wilmington Fire Department does not have a designated training area for our structural firefighting practices. It's next to the wastewater treatment plant. It's 475 Hay Road. We are going to be using approximately, probably a little more, $500,000. That's to do infrastructure work at the site, along with buying our training simulator. The training simulator is about $220,000. It's a prefabricated, what we call a container system, to a global company, Draeger, and it's for live firefighting training. This is a training facility for the Wilmington Fire Department. It's been long overdue, and we need it. Because right now we have to either go to Westchester or out to Newcastle to actually get live fire training. The other $50,000 we will be putting into Station 4 for the alerting system. It's a very comprehensive alerting system program that alerts the stations, the crews when runs come in. It's a very elaborate system. But right now, since Station 4 is under renovation, we will have to install that there also. And then we're looking at $50,000 for our fireboat, our marine unit, for maintenance on our boat. We have a 75-foot metalcraft fireboat that is in need of some repairs.
Moving on to question 10, can you talk about the training memberships? Any highlights there, any changes? Specifically, council is interested in any training dealing with diversity and cultural matters.
Yes, sir. We will be working with the Human Resources Department for some diversity, inclusion, and equity training. Currently on our Target Solutions training platform, we do have diversity training CEU courses that we will be assigning to all our personnel for completion. Currently, one of the other questions were about accreditation. There's no funding budgeted for our accreditation. Our main concentration right now, and what it has always been, is our ISO rating. And if you're not familiar with the ISO ratings, it's the Insurance Services Office. They actually do a survey on fire departments throughout the country, and they have 4 basic disciplines they look at. They look at the fire department and their suppression capabilities, their training, et cetera, et cetera. They also look at our emergency communication systems, our water supply throughout the city, and also our fire prevention and risk reduction component in our department. And, you know, the city of Wilmington, we have an ISO rating of number 2. On a scale of 1 to 10, that's a superior rating. And that also, you know, is afforded to the homeowners in the city and business owners lower insurance premiums because of that. So a lot of our concentration is on that, maintaining that rating. For our registration, not much has changed from last year. EMT renewal is $800 or $8,000, close to $8,900. That's for everyone on our department is at a national level as an emergency medical technician, and that requires recertification every 2 years, and it's approximately 24 hours altogether, correct? Well,
It requires
30.
approximately 40 hours
Yeah.
total between CEUs and the refresher course.
So, and we have, this is the large group coming up, I believe.
We're coming
This
into our
is a small
smaller
group?
years.
Okay.
Yeah, we're about 2/3 FY23, third.
We have a driver operator course. That's important. Our department's very young, and as we're bringing on younger members, we need to, you know, bring them up to speed, get them those national certifications as driver operators. The hiring process, instructor 2, that's one of the next courses that will be coming in here. That's a national level certification that we'll be offering to our firefighters and our officers. Lakeview Symposium, which we've been doing every year on the anniversary of 1924 Lakeview Road, where we lost our 3 firefighters and many other firefighters were, you know, seriously injured. We do that every year. It's a well-received program. Once again, I do believe we're going to be down at Chase Center delivering that program. Recruit class registration for that, we're looking at 10 to 12 for our next academy, which we have in here.
And most of these items were in previous last year's.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
I just want to make sure to highlight any
Yeah,
changes.
okay, yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, basically what this
Okay.
this was here last year, and,
Perfect.
you know, we moved forward with it in this FY.
If we can touch on question 11, this is something council is excited about, the return of the Explorer program, the
Absolutely.
Citizens Academy. Can you highlight what the budget is for that and what
Budgeted
the future
$15,000
plans are?
for our Explorer program. The Explorer program was reinstated after a several-year lull. We currently have, I think we're at 8 Explorers at this present time. I do know that I did send out, information on the program to everyone in council. We're still open for any participants. The program, I know I was at the first open house. The program was very well received by some of the parents and children that came. I know they have a meeting at the end of the month. They have 2 meetings a month. We're very excited about this. This is a great tool for us to be out in the community and engaging with the young in our city. So we are actively seeking, other young men and women. And we do our recruitment through the social media and city website.
Do you have any insight on the ER contract or the emergency transportation contract with St. Francis? I believe it expires October 2023. Do we have an update
Yes,
as
sir.
to what that contract looks like?
The city has a long-standing beneficial relationship with St. Francis Hospital EMS. We are continuing to engage in discussions regarding the future contract renewal at this time.
Okay. All right. Do you have any highlights with the uniform and safety gear, or is it just standard stock, or is it new products you're looking at?
It's very similar to last year. The increase of 50,000 is for the new recruit class that we are planning on. The hiring process to start in January of '24, potentially. The only thing I can say here, the increased prices of wearing apparel has exceeded the rate of inflation, and I think see that everywhere. Other equipment is replaced on a needed basis. Other than that, we do have, each firefighter has 2 sets of gears, and every 5 years, the primary gear is moved to a secondary set, and a new primary set is purchased.
Okay. And can you discuss the use of the miscellaneous account line? Notice this was a little bit of an increase as well.
Yes, this increase, it's due to a lot of the maintenance, contract maintenance that we have to do on our 6 stations. What's that? Yeah, the only new thing from this year is it's $10,000 for hose testing. In the past, all our hose has to be tested. All of our hose has to be tested on an annual basis. We used to do it in the past. Our suppression personnel would be responsible for doing it. We did some research into it this year, and we really need to go to a third-party vendor that is going to be put in a certification on that hose testing. And they follow the NFPA standards, making sure that we're complying. So that this is the first time we've introduced that. We do it already for all our aerial ladders, our aerial trucks. We do the testing along with pump testing on all our engines. So this is the only new thing would be the hose testing.
Okay. And if you could, I know we touched on this briefly a little bit, but our final question is just about the future. I know you just graduated class, but do you have any expectations next fiscal year for a new class?
Yes, I do. Yes, we do. For FY24, we're looking at predicting probably in January, February of that year of '24, starting that hiring process. We do believe we will be down personnel. And we are going to move forward with, partnering with other agencies so we can make it an expedited process. The station wear for the recruit class, for the rookies, it's $22,000. All told, the training is $36,000. And the large sum here is the protective equipment that we have to fit out for all the recruits once they're hired. It's $149,000.
All right. Thank you very much, Chief. And if you could move to your org chart. Is there any changes to the structure of your department in the last fiscal year?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Very well. I'm going to now turn it to members of council for any questions. All right, seeing no questions from council, I'm going to turn it to public comment for those in chambers and also online. All right, well, then we're back to final comments and questions. And the only thing I have, unless my colleagues do, is, again, thank you for your work for your department. I believe we are all glad to see a new class that just graduated. I know those who could attend, enjoyed the ceremony. It was very nice to see because it had been a few years. And
Yes.
I know we're looking forward to next year. So again, thank you for your leadership. In continuing to evolve the department. We hope you stay at authorized strength and we can decrease the overtime a little bit. So, besides that, is there any other comments or questions?
Just echoing,
Councilmember Bracy.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Thank you. This was a in-depth presentation, very thorough, and we appreciate your service and all that you guys do to keep us safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just say the presentation was so thorough that there's no questions.
That's the first this budget cycle, so you get a.
You got to pass on this one.
I had to get my boss out of here quick. Chief of staff,
Chief.
give her a break.
Chief, it might be,
Thank you
it
for
might be that
everything.
you went past the dinner hour, so.
Okay.
But we appreciate your effort, really.
No, thank you for
And then
giving us this
Councilmember-
opportunity.
And then Councilmember Fields.
I just want to say, thank you so much. I do appreciate, when the fire was on, Monroe Street, Inspector Booker.
Brooks.
Brooks.
Yes.
I always get, he is like
Mhm.
hands-on all the time. He is like the man with the plan.
Yes. I think he helped you out over there by Carpenter Street. I do, was,
All the time.
yeah, yeah.
He helps me out all the time. I could just see him. He was like, pull over. He tells me to pull over. Instead of me asking him, he says, pull over. I got something I got to tell you. We're going to clean this up and we're going to do this. So I just want to thank you all for what you do, what you're doing in the community. Keep up the good work and great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. And that, when you say something about Inspector Brooks, the men and women of our department, they're that same image. That's every day. But thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Chief. We appreciate you taking part in tonight, especially your leadership. Thank you again for everything that you do to the city. I'd like to, of course, thank OMB, Mr. Winkler, Director Greco, and of course, Chief of Staff Washington, City Council Chief of Staff, and of course, Ms. Marshall Bassney. So thank you very much for everyone taking part. Just as a housekeeping matter, so the last budget hearings, the next budget hearings are, our calendar, I believe, is Monday, beginning at 4:30. I have it as, is it Law Department first? Marcia? And then Law. Okay. All right. It will be Audit Department starting at 4:30, and then Law Department, and then I believe, okay, and then OED. So Economic Development will be the last budget hearings, and then stay tuned, of course, for more committee meetings as we go forward. So that's the schedule for Monday. Again, I would like to thank everyone for participating, and those of you at home and chambers and online. If you have any feedback or suggestions regarding the budget, please, again, reach out to us at council at 302-576-2140. As well as you can contact us by email or website. As a friendly reminder, you can always tune in to WITN Channel 22 to watch the meeting. You can also stream online at WITN22.org. And the budget information, the slideshows, and the data, and the answers to the questions, those are online at WIMDEBudget.org. And at this time, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. The Finance Committee hearing for the Fire Department has concluded, and we will see all of you next week. Thank you.